Chapter 249. Just as he rushed out 100 meters and thought that Ning Tian didn't notice, the space in front of him suddenly distorted. Following that, Ning Tian took a step out of the void. "Where do you want to go?" Ning Tian's teasing voice slowly sounded. Crimson Soul's face turned green and black. Then, he gritted his teeth and turned into a ray of demonic chi, wanting to rush out again. But at this time, a ball of spiritual energy had already enveloped him. "Can I let you run away under my nose?" Ning Tian flipped his palm, and the spiritual energy that enveloped Crimson Soul's wisp of demonic soul brought him in front of him. He wouldn't do something like letting a tiger return to the mountain, just like how an enemy that could be killed in one move would never use a second move. "Speak. What exactly is the pagoda demon tower that you speak of?" Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a cold light as he asked indifferently. "Umph." Crimson Soul snorted coldly, clearly not planning to say another word. Seeing this, Ning Tian couldn't be bothered to say anything more. With a flip of his palm, that terrifying spiritual energy directly enveloped Crimson Soul. He didn't plan to say anything more, and he wouldn't waste his breath either. He directly chose to obliterate him. "You." Crimson Soul's face suddenly changed. Before he could say anything, his last wisp of demonic soul was directly obliterated. He didn't expect it until he died. This human race brat was actually so decisive in killing. After dealing with 2 demons, this was also Ning Tian's first time fighting with a demon. If not for the fact that he had the advantage of some deity realm pressure in the land of the fallen gods, dealing with these 2 demons wouldn't be so easy. Huff! Ning Tian let out a long sigh of relief. Then, he slowly took out the pagoda demon tower from his storage ring. Looking at the pagoda demon tower in his palm, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a wisp of curiosity. The pagoda demon tower in his hand slowly rotated. Vaguely, there was a trace of demonic chi leaking out. "What exactly is this thing?" Ning Tian muttered. Then, he made a bold decision. Using a trace of consciousness, he entered the pagoda demon tower. He closed his eyes slightly. A wisp of consciousness circulated within. This was the Buddha Demon Pagoda. The surroundings were pitch black, and dense demonic chi filled the entire space. Suddenly, a beam of light appeared. Ning Tian appeared in the Buddha Demon Pagoda. "Is this the interior of the Buddha's Demon Pagoda? What a powerful devil chi!" Ning Tian murmured, his eyes filled with caution. He felt that it was difficult to move an inch in this place. Every step he took was a kind of torture. "Host, this system does not recommend you to continue forward." Just as Ning Tian was about to walk forward, the system's voice rang out. What happened?" Ning Tian was stunned for a moment and asked. "This is only the first level of the Buddha's Demon Pagoda. Host, you are still too weak. This system suggests that you bring your 2 wives over." The system said slowly. Ning Tian rolled his eyes. Was there a system that publicly called its host weak? He didn't give him any face at all. Wait, what the hell is with 2 wives? Suddenly, Ning Tian reacted and scratched his head. Since when did he have 2 wives? Luo Wuqing's first wife and the Queen Mother of the West's second wife. The system said in a serious tone. "System, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want." The system said, "Host, this system doesn't eat, so you can say whatever you want?" Ning Tian's face darkened. "Besides, host, think about it. Doesn't it feel good to be hugging each other?" The system egged him on. Cough, cough. It does feel good. Ning Tian coughed dryly and scratched his head. This was more than just good. This was so good that it felt like heaven. "Yes, when the time comes, let's have some fun together." "Together?" "System, you're not right. I'm a decent person," Ning Tian said with a straight face. "A decent person? Heh, which decent person has 2 wives?" A righteous retort from a decent system. Ning Tian was stunned. What the system said made sense. Forget it. That's all for now. Ning Tian ignored the system. After taking another look at the pitch-black space of the Buddha Demon Pagoda, he turned and left. According to the system, he was only at the first level of the Buddha Demon Pagoda. The first level was already so terrifying. What about the higher levels? Or, how many levels did this Buddha Demon Pagoda have? It seems like this bit of strength is far from enough to fully understand the Buddha Demon Pagoda. Ning Tian murmured and slowly exited the Buddha Demon Pagoda. Outside the land of the fallen gods. Ancestral Master, how much longer will it take? Yi Bei was anxious. More than 2 hours had passed, but there was no change in the land of the fallen gods. What's the hurry? Ning Tian's shadow said indifferently as his gaze fell on the center of the land of the fallen gods. The wind is coming soon. Really? Hearing this, Yi Bei was elated. The group of elders from Great Compassion Palace also looked toward the center of the land of the fallen gods. Would the abnormalities in the land of the fallen gods disappear, as the ancestral master said? At this moment, a gentle breeze blew past, and the sound of the wind was heard. Whoosh! Suddenly, a gust of wild wind erupted in the land of the fallen gods. This was the demon extinguishing gale that Ning Tian had cast. Boom! In an instant, the entire land of the fallen gods was shrouded by the wild wind. Then, the dark clouds in the sky were blown away, and all the strange phenomena disappeared. Wind. The wind is really coming. Amazing. Amazing. The ancestral master was right. Seeing this, Yi Bei and the group of elders from Great Compassion Palace widened their eyes in excitement. It was really as the ancestral master said. The wind was coming. Seeing this, Ning Tian's lips curled into a smile. Then, without anyone noticing, his body slowly dissipated. At this moment, a void door opened in the space beside him, and Ning Tian stepped out of it. At this moment, he had already taken off the ice silkworm mask on his face. How is it? This strange phenomenon will eventually be blown away by the wind. Ning Tian walked over with a smile. It's really as the ancestral master said. Yi Bei's heart, which was hanging in the air, was finally at ease. Their gazes towards Ning Tian became more and more respectful. He was indeed the legendary ancestral master of the Tianma cult and the eternal god. It was as if everything was going according to the ancestral master's will. Father. At this moment, Yi Yu and the others slowly walked out of the land of the fallen gods. Without the strange phenomenon, they could naturally come out of the land of the fallen gods. You are. Hearing the voice, Yi Bei's eyes flashed with excitement, and he quickly walked over. Fortunately, you are all fine. Seeing that his daughter was safe and sound, Yi Bei heaved a sigh of relief. But the several tens of martial brothers and sisters all died in there. Yi Yu did not rejoice at surviving the disaster. Instead, she was slightly dazed. Chapter 250. Yi Bei was taken aback when he heard that and remained silent for a long time. He felt terrible about losing so many elite disciples, but there was nothing he could do about it. It was fortunate that Yi Yu and the rest were able to return. Let's go, Yu-er. I'll bring you to meet a big shot. When he said this, Yi Bei was already scheming in his heart. His heart was also excited. A big shot? Yi Yu and the rest were stunned when they heard that. They were confused when they saw how excited Yi Bei was. Palace Master was a God Emperor realm expert. Who exactly was this person that could make him so agitated? Shortly after, Yi Yu and the others followed Yi Bei's footsteps and slowly walked over. The group of disciples was stunned when they saw Ning Tian. F***CK. He's so handsome. I just saw that ugly senior. Now that I see this young master, I feel like my eyes have been cleansed. The group of Great Compassion Palace disciples discussed among themselves, and their eyes lit up. Yi was also slightly dazed, and her red lips parted slightly. The young man in front of her was many times more handsome than any of the young talents she had seen in the northern region. However, Yi frowned and walked over. She bowed and said, "Young master, have we met before?" She kept feeling that the Ning Tian in front of her seemed to have seen her somewhere before. There was a sense of familiarity. Ning Tian was stunned when he heard Yi Yu's words. He could not help but take a deep look at Yi Yu. This woman's intuition was too accurate. "Miss, I'm afraid you're overthinking. We haven't met before." Ning Tian smiled and shook his head. It was unknown how many female disciples of the Great Compassion Palace were attracted by this smile. Yi was also slightly dazed. When she came back to her senses, she smiled apologetically. It seems like I'm overthinking. You've been in the northern region all year round. How could you have met the ancestral master? Yibei chuckled as he spoke. Ancestral master? Yi was stunned. She was shocked and covered her red lips in disbelief. Father, do you mean that he's a legendary ancestral master? Legendary patriarch? Could it be the legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult? Great Emperor. Upon hearing this, the expressions of the Great Compassion Palace's disciples changed instantly. Their eyes were filled with admiration and awe. You shocked Yi. You shocked a group of Great Compassion Palace disciples. Reward: Aura Cultivation plus 5,000. At this moment, the system's voice sounded again. Absorbing Faith Energy. Faith Energy plus 1. Faith Energy plus 2. Faith Energy plus 1. Current stored Faith Energy, 800, 010000. As expected, my believers are everywhere. Ning Tian felt the faith energy in his body increase, and he couldn't help but understand the truth of this sentence. However, it was good to have faith energy. Now, he was only 2,000 away from gathering the power of 10,000 different levels of faith. Ancestral Master, I have an idea, but I don't know if I should say it. At this moment, Yibei rolled his eyes and came over. What is it? Ning Tian glanced at him and said indifferently, That's right. What do you think of my daughter? Yibei chuckled. As soon as he said that, Ning Tian understood what Yibei wanted to do. He glanced at Yi. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe her as a beauty with fair skin and long legs. She was an out-and-out beauty. Yi blushed when she heard her father's words. She also understood. However, she didn't show much resistance. Instead, she was looking forward to it. After all, this was her ancestral master. Moreover, she was very confident in her appearance. After all, she was ranked first among the beauties in the entire northern region. Oh, and then? However, Ning Tian only glanced at her once before looking away indifferently. Yibei was stunned when he heard Ning Tian's words. Why didn't this ancestral master follow the script? Ahem. He came to his senses and coughed dryly before saying, Ancestral master, shouldn't a great emperor like you be treated like an emperor? So, Her Majesty wouldn't mind if you have multiple wives and concubines, right? So, Ancestral Master, why don't you take my daughter as your concubine? After Yibei finished speaking, he looked at Ning Tian with a face full of anticipation. Although it was only a concubine, it didn't seem to fit her identity as the daughter of the palace master of the Great Compassion Palace. However, it also depended on whose concubine she was. This was the legendary ancestral master's concubine. It wasn't shameful at all. At the side, Yu blushed. Her ancestral master was an almost perfect man. Which girl in the heavenly spirit realm wouldn't like him? Even the disciples and elders of the Great Compassion Palace were looking forward to it. If they were to have a relationship with the ancestral master, who in the entire northern region would dare to provoke them? I'm not interested. Under everyone's gaze, Ning Tian looked indifferent and shook his head. Although Yi was a rare beauty, he didn't have any intention of taking her in. He didn't have to take in a beautiful woman just because he saw one. It wasn't necessary. You're not interested? When Ning Tian said this, the disciples of the Great Compassion Palace around him were disappointed. A trace of disappointment flashed across Yi's beautiful eyes, and she sighed faintly. Ancestral Master, Yibei was still unwilling. Even if you don't want to be a concubine, you can be a bed-warming maid. Shut up. Ning Tian glanced at him indifferently, his eyes full of coldness. Although he was an old pervert, he wasn't like that to everyone. Only those who could make him stand up. Only Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West. As for the other women? Yes, sensing the coldness in Ning Tian's eyes, Yibei didn't dare to say anything even if he was unwilling. After all, the person in front of him was his ancestral master. At this moment, a figure descended from the sky. Phew, I'm finally back. Everyone looked over. It was Ancestral Master Tianbei, who was sent flying by Ning Tian with his face. Ancestral Master, How far have you flown? Yi Bei looked at ancestral master Tianbei, who was descending from the sky, with a puzzled expression. Not far, just to the Divine Land. I also had a cup of tea with some old friends in the Divine Land city. Ancestral master Tianbei coughed and said slowly, Divine Land? Hearing this, Yi Bei and the other elders of the Great Compassion Palace were shocked. The northern state was very far away from the Divine Land. Ancestral Master Tianbei was too good at flying, right? He had crossed half of the Sky Spirit realm in an instant. You're back? Since you're back, give me the 100,000 mu of herb fields that were supposed to be given to me. At this moment, Ning Tian's indifferent voice sounded from the side. Hearing Ning Tian's voice, Ancestral Master Tianbei's whole body trembled, and his eyes were full of awe. His old friend in the Divine Land City was the ruler of the theocracy. When he learned that the ruler of the theocracy was also cheated by the Ancestral Master, he realized that he was a fool. Why did he suspect the Ancestral Master? Yes, Ancestral Master. I'll immediately prepare 100,000 mu of herb fields for you. Chapter 251. Great Compassion Palace. All the disciples looked at the highest point of Great Compassion Palace. Their gazes were filled with 30% worship and 70% reverence. There was a young man sitting cross-legged there, and he had a famous name that was enough to shake the entire heavenly spirit region. The legendary patriarch of the Tianma cult. Above the cliff, a gentle breeze blew past. Ning Tian sat cross-legged on the edge of the cliff, feeling the weak spiritual energy flowing in the air. After the battle and absorbing a lot of spiritual energy, he vaguely felt that there were signs of a breakthrough in his body. Phew. It's been almost a week since the last breakthrough. It's not too much to break through 1 star in a week, Ning Tian said softly with a glimmer in his eyes. 1 star in a week was not too fast or too slow. However, if those cultivators who had only broken through 1 star in a few decades heard this, they would probably chop him up with a knife. Phew. Ning Tian breathed a sigh of relief. He could try to break through while Great Ancestor Tianbei was preparing 100,000 mu of herb fields. Then, he activated the Celestial God Record and began to cultivate. Soon, the spiritual energy around Ning Tian began to circulate. The entire mountaintop of Great Compassion Palace was shrouded in rich spiritual energy. It was as if they had arrived at a paradise. The disciples of Great Compassion Palace widened their eyes when they saw this scene. From their point of view, Ning Tian was just sitting cross-legged, but there was a steady flow of spiritual energy around him. Amazing! The male disciples of Great Compassion Palace widened their eyes. They were envious. If the spiritual energy did not come to them, they would go to the spiritual energy. But the patriarch was different. The spiritual energy was rushing to the patriarch as if it was in a hurry to be reincarnated. So handsome. He's indeed my ideal partner. The female disciples of the Great Compassion Palace seemed to be infatuated. Their beautiful eyes sparkled as they looked at Ning Tian. Senior sister, you're using the patriarch as your ideal partner? I'm afraid you won't be able to get married for the rest of your life. A junior sister could not help but ridicule her senior sister. You're right. Half a patriarch then. The senior martial sister was taken aback for a moment before nodding thoughtfully. Then, he looked at his junior sister and asked curiously, Junior sister, why do you keep blinking at the Ancestral Master? Senior sister, I'm trying my best to engrave the appearance of the patriarch in my mind. There's a saying that goes, what you think about in the day, you dream about at night. If I remember the Ancestral Master, then the Ancestral Master might come to me in my dreams at night. The junior sister from Great Compassion Palace said seriously. I see. I want one too. I want to have a wet dream. Senior sister's wolf-like gaze landed on Ning Tian. Boom. At this time, a rumbling sound came from the cliff. A steady stream of spirit chi flowed towards Ning Tian. Patriarch, what are you trying to do? The disciples of Great Compassion Palace were attracted to the scene. In their eyes, Ning Tian was a 9 tribulations great emperor. Therefore, they did not know that this seemingly earth-shattering phenomenon was actually Ning Tian breaking through. Although I don't know what the Ancestral Master is trying to do, I really want to shout those 8 words. A disciple from Great Compassion Palace who had just returned from West Continent said slowly, 8 words? Which 8 words? The surrounding disciples of Great Compassion Palace looked at the disciple in confusion. He. The disciple smiled mysteriously. His eyes were shining with golden light as he said slowly, I passed by West Continent and heard that as long as I sincerely shout Patriarch is awesome and eternal God, I'll gain incredible benefits. Therefore, I'll shout Patriarch first. After saying that, the disciple took a deep breath and put on a serious look. Then, he shouted loudly, Patriarch is awesome and eternal God. Boom. In an instant, an imposing aura appeared on his body. Then, he was sent flying. He landed heavily on the ground. Seeing this, many of the surrounding disciples were stunned. Their expressions changed. Damn, is this guy being punished by the heavens? But the ancestral master is awesome. He didn't lie, did he? Junior brother, are you okay? The group of disciples from Great Compassion Palace looked at the disciple who had fallen on the ground and asked worriedly, Silence, silence. The disciples' mouths twitched. Shock. A disciple from Great Compassion Palace was punished by the heavens because he shouted the mysterious code of 8 words, while the disciples of Great Compassion Palace were stunned on the spot. Suddenly, the disciple who had fallen on the ground jumped up. He spat out blood and shouted excitedly, F***, I broke through? Ha ha ha. The disciple laughed wildly. The more he laughed, the more blood flowed from his mouth. This was because he was shocked to find that he had broken through from 7-star Black Martial Master to 8-star Black Martial Master. Seeing the disciple's appearance and hearing his words, the disciples of Great Compassion Palace were dumbfounded. 3 question marks slowly appeared above his head. What the hell? He broke through just like that? Could it be, was it that mysterious code? The disciples seemed to have figured something out. Their eyes lit up, but they did not dare to make a move. Junior brother, I'm enlightened. What about you? The senior brother among the disciples of Great Compassion Palace muttered to himself. He was eager to make a move. Senior brother, I'm enlightened too. The junior brother next to him nodded heavily. So, are you ready? Yes. Then, the 2 of them took a deep breath and shouted with all their strength, The ancestral master is awesome. He's a god forever. Everyone's eyes were on the 2 of them. Boom. Spiritual energy exploded from the 2 of them, and they were sent flying. However, when they were sent flying, the 2 of them revealed a blissful expression. After falling on the ground, the 2 of them quickly got up. Blood flowed from their mouths, but they were extremely excited. It was obvious that they had broken through too. Seeing this, the disciples of Great Compassion Palace no longer hesitated and shouted one after another. The mysterious code of 8 words echoed throughout Great Compassion Palace. The reason why they were able to achieve such an effect was because of their sincere worship and because Ning Tian hadn't closed off the Faith Cultivation Array formation. They vomited blood to level up because they were weaker and could not bear the gift of the Faith Cultivation formation. When Great Ancestor Tianbei, Yibei, and a group of elders of Great Compassion Palace arrived, they saw many disciples lying in pools of blood. Their expressions changed immediately. F***CK. Who attacked the disciples of Great Compassion Palace? How dare they? Yi Bei's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with anger. The disciples lying in pools of blood made him think that they had met with misfortune. Behind him, Yi Yu and a group of elders were also pale. They had only gone to prepare 100,000 acres of herb fields for the ancestral master, and their home had been raided. This was outrageous. Chapter 252. Palace Master. No one did anything to the disciples. At this moment, a disciple stood out and said with a smile, Can't you see that although the disciples are vomiting blood, their faces are very bright? Yibei was stunned and observed carefully. The disciples were indeed, as he said. Although they were lying in a pool of blood, they were smiling. Are they stupid? Yibei was puzzled. Immediately, The disciples slowly explained the cause of the matter. Hearing this, Yi Bei and the others' faces changed drastically. What? There's such a thing? Not only was Yi Bei dumbfounded, even Elder Tian Bei, who had lived for thousands of years, had never seen such a scene. Shouting that the founder was awesome would give them a boost? There was such a good thing in the world? Yi Bei and the other elders were a little tempted. However, due to their pride, they were too embarrassed to shout it out loud. Thus, the elders looked at each other and did not say anything. If they couldn't shout it out loud, then what about whispering? Cough. At this moment, Yi Bei coughed and looked at the group of disciples. After all, he's the founder. It's not strange for him to have such an abnormality. However, I won't be able to compete with you guys on this level. Our cultivation bases are enough. Hearing this, the group of elders all nodded their heads in all seriousness. Hearing this, the group of disciples below was touched. As expected of the palace master and the elders, they were indeed considerate of the disciples. All right, hurry up and cultivate. Yi Bei waved his hand. Before he could finish speaking, a spiritual energy suddenly blasted on his body and his cultivation rose a little. Seeing this scene, Yi Bei was stunned. The group of disciples was also stunned. The surroundings were silent. Only Yi Bei was going crazy. Damn, what's going on? He silently said in his heart, the founder is awesome. Is there an effect even if he's a god forever? Although he said that, he could not help but try it in his heart. However, what was shocking was that even if he said it in his heart, it was still effective. It's over, it's over. My reputation is gone. Feeling the strange gazes of the disciples, Yi Bei sighed in his heart. However, at this moment, boom, 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 streaks of spiritual chi appeared on the group of Great Compassion Palace elders who had just said that they would not compete with the disciples. At this moment, everyone was silent. All of them kept saying that they wouldn't, but how fragrant. You guys. Sigh, your mouths say no, but your bodies are quite honest. At the side, Great Ancestor Tian Bei shook his head and sighed. Yi Bei and the others were the ones who spoke ill of their mouths, but their bodies were upright. Hearing this, Yi Bei and the others looked guilty. Learn from this old man never. Before Great Ancestor Tian Bei could finish his words, a burst of spiritual energy erupted from his body. Ahem, that was an accident. His face turned red as he coughed dryly. Boom, boom, boom. But in the next moment, spiritual energy started to appear on his body, causing the group of disciples and elders to be dumbfounded. How many times had this old fellow secretly said that the ancestral master was awesome? This was great. Quan Zhenxiang warned. Cough, cough. Cultivate, cultivate. Great Ancestor Tian Bei coughed dryly and waved his hand. Only a fool would not take advantage of the benefits. The group of disciples fell silent and began to cultivate one by one. On the high cliff, Ning Tian was still a bit away from breaking through. Just as he sighed slightly and was about to give up, the system's voice sounded. You have shocked the disciples of the Great Compassion Palace. You have shocked the elders of the Great Compassion Palace. Reward, 10,000 spiritual energy cultivation base. The moment the spiritual energy cultivation base surged into his body, it was like a stone falling into a cup full of water, causing the water to overflow. Boom. Ning Tian's body shook as he released his aura. This was signs of a breakthrough. Congratulations, host, for breaking through. Current strength. 7 stars of the Holy Emperor Realm. Phew. Ning Tian exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and slowly opened his eyes. A glimmer of light flashed in his clear eyes. He finally broke through. When he opened his eyes, he saw a group of disciples of the Great Compassion Palace. Each of them was covered in blood, but they were laughing wildly. He couldn't help but frown slightly. What happened to these guys? What are you guys doing? Ning Tian slowly opened his mouth and asked. When his voice rang out, the gazes of the group of disciples and elders all landed on him. Their eyes were filled with fanaticism and reverence. Ancestral Master, this is all thanks to your invincible power, Yi Bei said. Then, he slowly explained what had happened. Oh, I see. Ning Tian didn't mind. He didn't care about the cultivation of faith. Anyway, it could be replenished by him, so he didn't lose anything. Detected the power of faith. Absorbing the power of faith. Power of faith +1. Power of faith +1. Power of faith +2. Current storage of power of faith 100, 001, 0000. Storage of power of faith of 10,000 level has been completed. That's it? Hearing the system's words, Ning Tian raised his eyebrows and a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. He had gained quite a lot from this trip. With the power of faith gathered, he had one more trump card in his hand. Tian Bei, are the 100,000 acres of herb fields ready? Ning Tian slowly got up and looked at Great Ancestor Tian Bei. It's ready. Great Ancestor Tian Bei nodded and then carefully handed a storage ring to Ning Tian. Ancestral Master, the 100,000 acres of herb fields are in this storage ring. Ning Tian nodded and put away the storage ring. He had already asked the Supreme Elder to go back. Now that the matter was almost settled, it was time to leave. The green hills do not change, and the green water flows forever. Everyone, we'll meet again if fate wills it. Hearing that Ning Tian was about to leave, Yi Bei and the others hurriedly sent him off. Farewell, Ancestral Master. Farewell, Ancestral Master. In the Great Compassion Palace, a series of deafening voices sounded. Ning Tian looked indifferent. He turned around and stepped into the void, disappearing from everyone's sight. Seeing this scene, Yi Bei and the others couldn't help but sigh. To think that a peerless powerhouse like the Ancestral Master would probably never see him again after this farewell. A day later, in the mountain gate of the Tianma cult, a figure appeared and cursed. F***CK, why is the North region so far away? If I had known earlier, the Supreme Elder would have come back first. It's too tiring to fly by yourself. This figure was Ning Tian. After an entire day and night, he finally flew back from the Great Compassion Palace. I'm so hungry, I want to eat steamed buns, he muttered and was ready to attack. At this moment, a stench assaulted him. He suddenly looked up and saw a bloody mouth suddenly appearing above his head. Roar. Ning Tian frowned and dodged immediately. Did this stupid lion eat people randomly? That's right, the owner of that bloody mouth was the Sealing Flame Lion King. Chapter 253. Roar? Seeing that its mouth had mist, the Lion King let out a lion's roar. It had finally familiarized itself with the Tianma cult's mountain gate in the past few days. This was much larger than when it was in the demonic beast forest. It thought that if it could bite an intruder to death today, it would be able to find its cheap master to exchange for a cute lioness. But it didn't expect that its mouth would miss. Stupid jade lion, do you want to bite me? At this moment, a familiar voice sounded in its ears, and its entire body trembled. It turned its head with some difficulty. Roar. After seeing that it was Ning Tian, its expression changed. Roar. The Sealing Flame Lion King roared. Misunderstanding? Heh, I think you're itching for a beating. Ning Tian glanced at it coldly. Today, you'll have less demonic beast meat. Suddenly, the Lion King wanted to cry but had no tears. There was no lioness, and there was less meat. Life is finally making a move on me, the little lion cub. Oh right, remember to go to the Heavenly Spring waterfall when you have time. Use the waterfall to wash your mouth. It's too smelly. Ning Tian looked at the Lion King with disdain. Roar. Hearing this, the Lion King shook its head in grievance. It had never heard that a lion had to brush its teeth. It was simply a disgrace in the lion world. Ning Tian couldn't be bothered with it. With a move, he headed in the direction of the Demonic Palace. Demonic Palace. Supreme Elder, do you mean that my husband has already completed his task in the land of the fallen gods? Luo Wuqing's cold voice sounded from the main hall.
Yes.
The Grand Elder nodded. According to what the Ancestral Master said, that should be what he meant. Hearing this, Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a faint light, and the worry in her heart instantly dissipated. He really did it. Then when will my husband return? This The Grand Elder was stunned for a moment and scratched his head. I don't know. The ancestral master didn't tell me this. Okay. Luo Wuqing nodded and waved her jade-like hand. Grand Elder, you go rest first? Yes. Hearing this, a smile appeared on the Supreme Elder's face. F***CK. I can finally rest. But before I rest, I'll take a look at the Royal Maiden painting first. At this moment, a figure slowly walked in from outside the hall. It was Ning Tian. Honey, come and let your husband take a look at your body. I haven't seen you for a few days. I wonder if you've gained weight. Ning Tian entered the hall and stepped into the void. He instantly teleported dozens of meters away. Then, he stretched out his hand and wrapped it around her slender waist. Not bad, not bad. Not much meat, not much, not much. As he spoke, his hands were still restless. Within the main hall, a group of elders were humming a tune as they looked to the side. Who would dare to look? This guy. Feeling the warmth, Luo Wuqing was stunned for a moment. That familiar aura made her feel intoxicated. Forget it. Let him be. Luo Wuqing sighed in her heart and simply did not bother to struggle. Tisk, tisk. As soon as you come back, you want to take advantage of your wife? Sure enough, you're a big pervert. At this moment, a playful voice sounded. In the void, Queen Mother of the West jumped out and looked at the two who were hugging each other sourly. Hey, woman, why are you still here? Seeing that Queen Mother of the West was still there, Ning Tian could not help but be stunned for a moment. He thought that this woman should have left long ago. Humph. It's my pleasure. Queen Mother of the West snorted and then said, In the day when you weren't here, I even hugged your wife to sleep. Huh. Hearing this, Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. Two women. Hugged to sleep? What kind of F***king scene was this? Can you imagine two stunning beauties hugging each other to sleep on the bed? If they were not wearing clothes, that scene, cough. At this moment, Ning Tian's mind was filled with colors. Ah, your husband has a nosebleed. At this moment, Queen Mother of the West exclaimed. Her red lips were slightly opened, and her beautiful eyes were full of ridicule. Huh. Luo Wuqing was stunned and looked at Ning Tian. Indeed, he saw that nosebleed was flowing down. Husband, are you all right? Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of worry. Cough, I'm fine. Ning Tian waved his hand and used his spiritual energy to wipe the nosebleed. What can happen to him? He's an old pervert. Queen Mother of the West's eyes were full of ridicule. This Queen Mother of the West loved to speak the truth. By the way, I suddenly thought of a very serious matter. At this moment, Ning Tian looked at the two women with a serious face. Huh. The two women were stunned for a moment. Their beautiful eyes were full of doubts as they looked at Ning Tian. It was just that. Next time when the two of you sleep, do you want to consider bringing me along? Ning Tian said with a straight face. Luo Wuqing, Queen Mother of the West. The two women were stunned for a moment. Their reactions were different. Haha, Queen Mother of the West covered her mouth and chuckled. She raised her chest at Ning Tian teasingly. Okay. How about tonight? However, Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyebrows quickly relaxed after frowning. Her eyes fell on Ning Tian. Her red lips moved slightly. Do you want it? Huh. Hearing that, Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. Want it? Yes. As soon as he said that, he was stunned for a moment. When he saw the cold light in Luo Wuqing's eyes, he immediately reacted and shook his head violently. No, I don't want it. Damn. If he said that he wanted it, he was afraid that he would lose his brother forever. Cough, cough. Just kidding, Ning Tian scratched his head. The Queen Mother of the West pursed her lips and complained silently. Puffed. You have the guts to be lecherous, but you don't have the heart to be lecherous. Ning Tian decisively ignored her. Then, he looked at the two women and finally said seriously, Honey, Queen Mother of the West, let's go to the study. Study? At the mention of the study, Luo Wuqing was stunned for a moment. She immediately thought of the madness that day. Queen Mother of the West even noticed. She gritted her teeth and said coldly, Let's go somewhere else. Let's go to the room. Hearing that, Ning Tian didn't think much of it. Anyway, if they were talking about serious matters, it was the same everywhere. Even if they didn't talk about serious matters, the room was convenient. From Ning Tian's fantasy. Immediately, the three of them stepped into the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. In the heavenly demon palace, a group of elders looked at each other. Sigh. The grand elder sighed faintly. Young people are young people. They still have to go to the room to discuss some very important matters. Forget it. Forget it. I'd better go look at the royal maiden painting. I'm old and useless. In the room, it was filled with the unique fragrance of a woman. Then, three people appeared from the void. The Queen Mother of the West directly lay on the bed where the two of them often fought with a satisfied look on her face. Ancestral Master, what do you want to say? The Queen Mother of the West's faint voice sounded. Chapter 254. Luo Wuqing looked at Ning Tian in confusion. Ning Tian smiled mysteriously when he saw the two girls looking at him curiously. He was not in a hurry to explain. Instead, he looked at Luo Wuqing. Honey, use your spiritual energy to seal the entire room. To take out the Buddha Demon Pagoda, he had to be fully prepared. After all, he could take out the Buddha Demon Pagoda without fear because he was in the land of the fallen gods and had the aura of a godly state expert. But now that he was out of the land of the fallen gods, no one knew what would happen to the Buddha Demon Pagoda once it was free of the aura of the land of the fallen gods. Luo Wuqing was slightly stunned when she saw Ning Tian's serious look. Then, she nodded without hesitation. A wisp of spiritual energy appeared on her hand and shook slightly. The aura of a great emperor shrouded the entire room. Ning Tian was still worried. He looked at the Queen Mother of the West and asked her to do the same. The Queen Mother of the West did not suspect anything. Soon, the room was shrouded by the aura. The aura of 2-9 Tribulation's great emperors circulated in the small room. At this moment, the two girls were even more curious. What could it be that made Ning Tian so cautious and use the aura of 2-9 Tribulation's great emperors? Hee. Ning Tian smiled mysteriously and said in a low voice, "Come, let me show you a big treasure." Big treasure? The two girls were stunned. Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of doubt, her face innocent. The Queen Mother of the West licked her red lips. Her eyes were full of ridicule. Patriarch's big treasure? Could it be? The two girls were clearly contrasted. One of them had been through hundreds of battles, but was incomparably pure. The other was inexperienced but full of colors. Then, under the expectant and confused gazes of the two girls, Ning Tian's storage ring shone. Then, he flipped his hand and a small black pagoda appeared in his palm. This is... The two girls were stunned and puzzled. Boom. At this moment, a ferocious demonic aura burst out from the small pagoda. Luo Wuqing and the Queen Mother of the West's faces turned cold. Their brows furrowed, and their eyes turned grave. What a powerful demonic aura! Husband, could this be the demonic god's relic? Luo Wuqing's gaze fell on the small black tower. His expression was grave. Yes. Ning Tian smiled and nodded. This thing is indeed. Suddenly, before he could finish speaking, a dense demonic chi emerged from the Buddha's devil pagoda. Boom. Bang. In the next moment, Ning Tian was sent flying by this wave of demonic chi. Husband, patriarch. The two women's complexions changed. They turned their jade-like hands slightly, and the spiritual energy in the entire room was instantly mobilized. Ning Tian slammed heavily into the wall. Fortunately, the entire room was filled with the two women's spiritual energy. This violent collision did not affect him much. If Ning Tian had not asked the two women to use their spiritual energy to envelop the room, he would have been sent flying out of the room. I'm fine. Let's look at the Buddha's devil pagoda first. Ning Tian climbed up from the ground and waved his hand. He looked at the Buddha's devil pagoda that was floating in the air and constantly releasing demonic chi. It was as if something strange would happen if he did not control it. Yes. Luo Wuqing nodded and looked coldly at the Buddha's devil pagoda. Her beautiful face was covered with frost. She raised her jade-like hands slightly and mobilized the terrifying spiritual energy. All the spiritual energy in the entire room was mobilized. The great emperor's aura turned into an invisible cage and trapped the Buddha's devil pagoda within it. All of the demonic chi was trapped to death. Tisk, tisk. Is this the husband protector demon? At the side, the Queen Mother of the West could feel the chilling aura from Luo Wuqing. Waves of terrifying aura came one after another, and she could not help but twitch her lips. Phew! This thing's demonic chi is so powerful. Seeing that the Buddha's devil pagoda was suppressed by Luo Wuqing, Ning Tian could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he had the foresight. Otherwise, once the Buddha's devil pagoda released its demonic chi, he did not know what would happen. Then, he slowly got up and walked toward the two women. Ah, Ancestral Master, your pants are gone again. The Queen Mother of the West covered her mouth and chuckled. Ning Tian was stunned. It turned out that under the explosion of the demonic chi, his clothes had been completely destroyed. Cough. Calm down. Ning Tian was not flustered. After all, there were only two women in the room. He leisurely changed his clothes. He could not help but complain in his heart. Is there no sturdier pants in this world? Why is it always my pants that get hurt? He shook his head slightly, looked at the Buddha's devil pagoda, and said softly, Wife, Queen Mother of the West, this black pagoda is called the Buddha's devil pagoda. Have you heard of it? Buddha's devil pagoda? Hearing this, the two women could not help but be stunned for a moment. After pondering for a moment, the two women shook their heads. Never heard of it. Hearing this, Ning Tian was silent for a moment and said slowly, In the land of the fallen gods, I met people from the demon clan. I heard about it from them. Demon clan? Hearing this, the two women's faces changed and they frowned. Husband, you're not hurt, are you? Luo Wuqing's gaze was fixed on Ning Tian's body, and his eyes were filled with worry. Ancestral Master, take off your clothes. Let me check for you. The Queen Mother of the West's eyes lit up, and she volunteered to pounce over. Ning Tian held the excited Queen Mother of the West and said indifferently, Don't worry, I'm fine. It's just two heavenly venerables. They are not my match in the land of the fallen gods. Hearing this, Luo Wuqing heaved a sigh of relief. I've entered the first level of this Buddha's devil pagoda. Unfortunately, with my strength, I can't enter it completely. So, I hope that the two of you can follow me in and find out what's going on. Ning Tian looked at the two women and said slowly, Okay. Hearing Ning Tian's words, the two women did not reject and nodded lightly. They were also interested in this so-called Fian Celestial's relic. Come, give me your hand. Okay. Then, Ning Tian finally had a legitimate reason to hold the two women's hands at the same time. Two cold and soft hands fell into his hands, and Ning Tian's mind rippled slightly. Then, he looked at the Buddha's devil pagoda. With a thought, the three of them entered the Buddha's devil pagoda. First level of the Buddha's devil pagoda. The surrounding demonic chi was hazy, and three faint lights appeared. Ning Tian and the two women appeared in the Buddha's devil pagoda. Is this the first level of the Buddha's devil pagoda? The Queen Mother of the West narrowed her beautiful eyes, and her eyes were filled with caution as she looked around, as expected of a lost relic of the demon clan. This demonic chi is really terrifying. She sighed. Even she was wary of the demonic chi in this place. One should know that this was only the first level. Chapter 255. Yes. This is the first level of the Buddha Demon Pagoda. The demonic aura is even more terrifying than before. Ning Tian nodded solemnly, his body trembling slightly. He was constantly circulating his spiritual energy to resist the demonic aura. At this moment, he felt a cold touch on his hand. A jade-like hand was holding his hand. Suddenly, the terrifying demonic aura on his body dissipated. Wife. Ning Tian was stunned. He looked at Luo Wuqing, who was holding him without saying a word. He could not help but feel a touch of warmth in his heart. My wife is still the best. If I don't pamper such a good wife, I'm not a man. Let's go. Luo Wuqing did not say much. She only opened her red lips slightly and said slowly. The three of them walked toward the first level of the Buddha Demon Pagoda. Although the Buddha Demon Pagoda was only the size of a palm, the space within it had infinite possibilities. After stepping into it, the originally pitch-black space had a faint trace of light. Woo! At this moment, a demonic sound came from the first level. The demonic sound kept ringing, sharp and ear-piercing. Demonic sound? Ning Tian frowned slightly and was about to take out the immortal slashing Guzheng. But before he could take action, he was stopped by Luo Wuqing. You don't have to do it. Let the Empress of the West do it, Luo Wuqing said lightly. Hearing this, Ning Tian thought of the Empress of the West's attainment in the Tao of Entertainment and nodded. Hee, watch me. The Empress of the West chuckled. Then, with a flip of her jade-like hand, a wooden flute appeared in her fair palm. She put it next to her red lips and let out a breath. Then, a desolate sound of the flute sounded. The moment the sound of the flute sounded, the surrounding demonic sound did not even have the ability to resist and shattered. SK Tisk. Seeing this scene, Ning Tian could not help but sigh. She was indeed the sleeper of the Nine Tribulations' great emperor. Her control of the Tao of Entertainment was indeed much stronger than his. Patriarch, do you want to learn? Shi Wangmu's bright eyes landed on Ning Tian. She licked her red lips, her eyes filled with mockery. Come to my Jade Lake Sacred Land when you're free. I'll play it for you personally. Cough. Ning Tian coughed dryly. He could vaguely feel that the cold little hand that was grabbing his big one was already tightening its grip a little. He could not help but mutter in his heart. Why is the Queen Mother of the West so mischievous recently? Was she really not afraid that he would eat her up? Just as Ning Tian felt like she was about to stand up, the system suddenly popped up. After all, even a cornered dog will jump over the wall. Ning Tian. While Ning Tian was speechless at the system, Luo Wuqing's pretty face changed. Her long, shapely eyebrows furrowed as she looked into the darkness not far away. Be careful, something is approaching. Things? Get close? Hearing this, Ning Tian and the Queen Mother of the West were stunned. A hint of caution flashed in their eyes. The Queen Mother of the West also quietly leaned over and hugged Ning Tian's other hand in her arms. What are you doing? Feeling his arm being constantly rubbed by that full body, Ning Tian could not help but look at the Queen Mother of the West with a dark face. What time is it now? This woman still has the mood to play around? Nothing. I'm just protecting the patriarch. A hint of slyness flashed in the Queen Mother of the West's eyes. Her pretty face was full of innocence. Ning Tian was speechless for a while. He glanced at Luo Wuqing, who was looking ahead solemnly, and did not notice this scene. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. He simply could not be bothered to care about the Queen Mother of the West. He was really courting death now. Could it be that the courting patriarch was having an affair online? The three of them looked into the darkness. Boom. At this moment, in the endless darkness, a huge cloud of demonic aura rushed over, accompanied by waves of terrifying demonic resentment. Is that demonic aura? Ning Tian frowned. His spiritual energy was quietly circulating continuously. No, it's not demonic aura. Luo Wuqing bit her red lips and shook her head slightly. It's demonic resentment. Demonic resentment? What's that? Ning Tian asked. Demonic resentment, as the name suggests, is actually formed by the resentment of the demon race combined with this huge demonic aura. The Queen Mother of the West explained. A glint flashed in her eyes. Since there's demonic resentment, it means that there's a demon race in the first level of the Buddha Demon Tower. Hee. At this moment, a horrifying aura emerged. A demonic howl rang in the ears of the three of them. The demonic aura that rushed over turned into a black shadow that was dozens of meters in size. Human race. Hee. There's actually a human in the Buddha Demon Tower. The eyes of the demonic resentment were filled with scarlet bloodlust. Its gaze kept sizing up the three of them. A one-star quasi-emperor level demonic resentment? Luo Wuqing said slowly when he saw the black shadow that was more than 10 meters in size. Quasi-emperor level? Ning Tian raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the The system had warned him back then. Otherwise, if he encountered a quasi-emperor-level demonic resentment in the Buddha Demon Tower, with his current strength, he naturally wouldn't be able to defeat it. But, feeling the touch of softness on each of his arms, Ning Tian couldn't help but feel a sense of security. Although he strongly condemned the act of living off a woman, but his teeth were not good these few days. Living off a woman wasn't a problem. "Oh, little girl, you can actually recognize my strength. Seems like your strength is not bad." The demonic resentment couldn't help but be surprised when Luo Wuqing saw through its strength. A pair of scarlet eyes kept sizing up Luo Wuqing as if it was looking at food. "I just don't know how it tastes to eat." The demonic resentment's tongue that was formed by demonic chi couldn't help but lick its lips, eager to eat. "Eat? You'd better eat, fart." At the side, Ning Tian rolled his eyes. "I haven't eaten enough. You want to eat my wife with just this little demonic resentment? Kid, you're courting death." The demonic resentment was furious. A mere human dared to refute it. The demonic chi on its body was monstrous, and it was about to attack Ning Tian. Seeing this, Luo Wuqing's pretty face turned cold. She couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense. She raised her hand, and a terrifying spiritual chi appeared. She suddenly pressed down. Boom. The demonic resentment that was incomparably arrogant just now was instantly suppressed to the ground. The demonic resentment's expression changed, and its eyes were filled with horror. This woman in front of it was actually a Nine Tribulations Great Emperor? The demonic resentment had been trapped in the Buddha Demon Tower for God knows how many years. He thought that he could finally eat. In the end, he encountered a Nine Tribulations Great Emperor the moment he came out. Sigh. The Queen Mother of the West sighed and looked at the demonic resentment pitifully. The aura on her body circulated slightly. "You're fine. Why did you provoke him? Don't you know that behind him, there's a protective demon?" The demonic resentment's expression changed drastically, and its eyes were filled with shock. Good heavens, this woman is also a Nine Tribulations Great Emperor? Chapter 256. Tell me, what secrets are hidden in this Buddha Demon Tower? Luo Wuqing's gaze turned cold as she stared at Mo Yuan with murderous intent. Mo Yuan's demonic aura trembled uncontrollably. His heart was filled with fear as he begged for mercy. "I don't know. I only know that there is a demon sealed in this Buddha Demon Tower. I don't know anything else. I'm just a product of resentment. Please spare me." Mo Yuan begged bitterly. "A demon is sealed?" Ning Tian and the other two frowned slightly. This was clearly a relic left behind by the demon clan. It could even be a supreme treasure of the demon clan. Why would a demon be sealed inside? How many floors does this Buddha Demon Tower have? Ning Tian looked at Mo Yuan and asked with a frown. Mo Yuan swallowed his saliva and braced himself to say, I don't know." How would he know? He was just a worker in the Buddha Demon Tower. How could he know so many things? "You don't know?" Luo Wuqing's beautiful eyes flashed coldly as they landed on Mo Yuan, causing him to tremble. This woman's gaze was so terrifying. Then die. Luo Wuqing had never been a person who liked to talk nonsense. The moment her voice fell, the Emperor's aura enveloped Mo Yuan, causing him to tremble violently. "Wait, I think I can still be saved." Mo Yuan quickly begged for mercy. Unfortunately, before he could finish his sentence, the terrifying Emperor's aura had already shattered his entire body. His demonic aura dissipated, and his resentment was completely crushed by the Emperor's aura. After Luo Wuqing swiftly dealt with Mo Yuan, she said to Ning Tian and the Queen Mother of the West, "Let's continue. According to Mo Yuan, there should be something hidden on this floor. If we catch that demon, we might be able to find out the use of this Buddha Demon Tower." Hearing this, the two felt that it was reasonable and nodded. The three of them continued to walk deeper into the Buddha Demon Tower. But soon, the three of them stopped. "This is?" Ning Tian looked at the blood-red line that covered the entire area in front of him. It was like the door of a cage, and he couldn't help but feel puzzled. Shi Wangmu pondered for a while before saying, "Perhaps it is the barrier sealing that demon?" "It's possible." Ning Tian nodded. To the side, Luo Wuqing released Ning Tian's hand and walked towards the blood-colored ceiling boundary with graceful steps. Her gaze landed on the ceiling formation. Other than the red color of the barrier, it was pitch black. "Honey, be careful," Ning Tian exhorted from the side. No one knew the ins and outs of this Buddha's devil pagoda, and no one knew what kind of trouble it would cause. Yes, Luo Wuqing nodded. A wisp of spiritual energy appeared on her jade-like hand, and she slowly reached out to touch the blood-colored barrier. Buzzed when her fingertips landed on the blood-colored barrier. The entire barrier rippled as if it had turned into water. Ning Tian and Shi Wangmu's nervous gazes landed on her. Once there was any abnormality, the two of them would rush over and pull her over regardless of their own safety. However, nothing happened, and the barrier was as calm as water. After a while, Luo Wuqing removed her hand from the barrier. She shook her head and said indifferently, "This barrier can't be broken. Even the power of a nine tribulations great emperor can't break it." "It can't?" Hearing this, Ning Tian frowned slightly. After a while, his brows relaxed. "Forget it. That's it then." There was no way forward. The biggest secret of the Buddha Demon Tower's first level was also hidden in this barrier. Perhaps only by knowing the way to break the seal of the barrier could they know the secret behind it. "Let's leave." Ning Tian sighed faintly, and then the three of them slowly dissipated. After a long time, there seemed to be a flash of red in the barrier. In the room, the Queen Mother of the West lay on the bed, displaying her extreme arrogance. Luo Wuqing sat at the table beside her, and Ning Tian leaned against the wall. After coming out of the Buddha Demon Tower, the three of them maintained such silence. The Buddha's Devil Pagoda involved too many things, and none of them knew exactly what it represented. Luo Wuqing was the first to break the silence in the room. She looked at Ning Tian, and a hint of worry appeared in her voice. "Husband, it's not safe for you to keep the Buddha Demon Tower. Why don't you give it to me?" Compared to the origin of the Buddha Demon Tower, Luo Wuqing was more worried about Ning Tian's safety. Hearing this, a trace of warmth appeared in Ning Tian's heart. He walked over and gently hugged her in his arms. He said softly, "Wife, you're so kind. However, leave this thing with me." But Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. "Just trust me." Ning Tian only looked at her, his voice full of calmness. Luo Wuqing looked at the pair of eyes full of certainty. Her red lips parted slightly, but in the end, she still nodded. Ning Tian was not blindly confident. Luo Wuqing was worried about him, and he was also worried about Luo Wuqing. Although the Nine Tribulations' great emperor was strong, there were stronger people above him. And although he was not strong at the moment, because of the chaotic aura, no one could spy on him. Therefore, there was no need to worry about the Buddha Demon Tower being discovered. For now, the most important thing is to investigate the origin of the Buddha Demon Tower, Ning Tian said in a low voice. Luo Wuqing frowned slightly. Her red lips parted slightly. But the heavenly spirit region is the spirit region of the human race. There's no way to start. When she said this, the room fell into silence again. Yes, the Buddha Demon Tower was lost in the heavenly spirit region, but the heavenly spirit region had been ruled by the human race since ancient times. There was no trace of the demon race at all. Could it be that they had to go to the demon race and capture one for interrogation? But that would be too arrogant. Maybe I have a way. At this moment, a voice sounded. Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing looked at the Queen Mother of the West with puzzled eyes. "What way?" the two asked in unison. "Hee, it's a secret." The Queen Mother of the West revealed a beautiful smile. "Anyway, wait for my good news." Then, without waiting for the two to say anything, she stepped into the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. She left the two with puzzled faces, still snuggling in the room. What is this woman doing? Ning Tian scratched his head, looking puzzled. Looking at how anxious he was, could it be that he had come up with a solution? Although I don't know what she's going to do, but I want to know, what's the meaning of your hand? Luo Wuqing glanced at Ning Tian indifferently and asked, "If I said it was a subconscious action, would you believe me?" Ning Tian said with a straight face, "No, I don't." Luo Wuqing pursed her lips. Then isn't that enough? You're shameless. Luo Wuqing tried to struggle, but he quickly fell. This guy was flirting again. Chapter 257. A few hours later, at the heavenly demon herb field, a middle-aged man in a farmer's uniform looked at the 100-meter-wide herb field and couldn't help but sigh. Sigh. If this continues, these herb fields will all be abandoned. This man was called Su Song, and he was the Tiamat cult's guard of this herb field. Because the Tiamat cult didn't pay much attention to the herb fields, this 100-meter-wide herb field was now showing signs of abandonment. Looking at him made his heart ache. Su Song let out a long sigh, but at this moment, a voice came from the sky. Su Song, we're here. He subconsciously raised his head and saw the Supreme Elder and several other elders descending from the sky. Greetings, Supreme Elder. Su Song hurriedly bowed, then looked at them in confusion and couldn't help but ask curiously, Elders, may I know what business you have in the herb field? Reclamation. The Supreme Elder stroked his beard and lightly spat out 2 words. Reclamation? Hearing this, Su Song couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. What does Supreme Elder mean? Literally, the Supreme Elder said with a smile, the Ancestral Master asked us to come. Don't ask so many questions, this old man doesn't know either. When the Ancestral Master comes, he will naturally know everything. Hearing this, although Su Song was puzzled, he could only nod silently. Soon, hundreds of disciples came to the herb field with hoes and other tools. Seeing this, Su Song's eyes brimmed with tears. Reclamation meant that the Ancestral Master had begun to pay attention to these herb fields. These spirit herbs that he had painstakingly planted could finally be saved. After all the disciples had gathered, a figure stepped out of the void. It was Ning Tian. After his battle with Luo Wuqing, he remembered that there were still 100,000 mu of spirit herbs waiting to be planted in his storage ring. Thus, he instructed the Supreme Elder to do something. That's why this happened. Ancestral Master. The Supreme Elder was the first to see Ning Tian and bowed slightly. Greetings, Ancestral Master. The other disciples also hurriedly followed suit and bowed. Ning Tian smiled and looked at the group of disciples. He then looked at the herb field and asked, who is in charge of this herb field? Patriarch, it's me. Su Song squeezed out from the crowd of disciples and looked at Ning Tian with excitement. Although he had always been guarding the medicinal field here, the Ancestral Master's illustrious name had long reverberated like thunder in his ears. Now that he saw the Ancestral Master, he was naturally incomparably excited. You are? Ning Tian looked at Su Song. Ancestral Master, my name is Su Song. I am the guardian of this medicinal field, Su Song quickly said. Su Song? All right, I got it. Ning Tian nodded his head. Then, he looked at Su Song and asked, how many acres of spirit herbs can be planted in this medicinal field if all of it is cultivated? Let me think. Su Song pondered for a while and said tentatively, maybe a few thousand mu? A few thousand mu? Ning Tian frowned and shook his head. Not enough. It's completely not enough. How many acres do you want to plant? Su Song was stunned and asked subconsciously. In his eyes, a few thousand mu of spirit herbs was already a lot. After all, spirit herbs were not cabbages that could be found everywhere. How could there be so many of them? The surrounding disciples were all carrying hoes on their backs as they looked at Ning Tian curiously. The Ancestral Master must have called them over to plant spirit herbs. However, how many did he want to plant? Ning Tian looked calm and said slowly, 100,000. I need to plant 100,000 mu. 100,000 mu? Su Song was dumbfounded. The surrounding disciples were also dumbfounded. Patriarch, where did you get so many spirit herbs? The elders and disciples at the side were confused. This is what the Ancestral Master got from the Great Compassion Palace. The Supreme Elder smiled mysteriously. Where did he get this from the Great Compassion Palace? The group of disciples and elders could not help but be stunned. They had heard about the Ancestral Master's trip to the Great Compassion Palace a few days ago. However, Wasn't it a little ridiculous to get 100,000 mu of spirit herbs from the Great Compassion Palace? Wait a minute. No, this was the Ancestral Master. Wasn't this a basic operation for the Ancestral Master? The group of disciples and elders came to their senses. The Ancestral Master was the one who scammed the spirit herbs? Then it was fine. Since he was the Ancestral Master, please take a seat. 100,000 mu of spirit herbs. Su Song swallowed his saliva with difficulty and then said bitterly, Ancestral Master, even if we plowed the entire herb field, I'm afraid we can only plant a few thousand mu. Is that so? Ning Tian touched his chin and fell into deep thought. After a while, his gaze landed on the tall mountain beside the medicinal field. The group of disciples and elders who saw this scene immediately felt their hearts tremble. They suddenly had an uneasy premonition. Damn! Could it be that the Ancestral Master was thinking of tearing down the mountain? Just as they were thinking about it, they heard the Ancestral Master murmur softly, Why don't we tear down that mountain? No, you can't, Ancestral Master. At this moment, the Supreme Elder hurriedly dissuaded him. Oh? Ning Tian raised his eyebrows and asked, Why not? The Supreme Elder was stunned, and a look of astonishment flashed across his eyes. Before he could say anything, the Ancestral Master asked, Do I need a reason to tear down a mountain? The Supreme Elder was stunned and said subconsciously, Don't you need a reason? Do you need one? Don't you need one? The Supreme Elder fell silent. He felt that this could not go on, so he hurriedly said, Ancestral Master, I'm mainly worried that when you tear down the mountain, some gravel will fall. It won't be good if it hits the flowers, grass, or the disciples passing by. After saying that, he hurriedly signaled the group of disciples with his eyes. If they did not stop the Ancestral Master from tearing down the mountain, he had a feeling that the Tianma cult would be gone sooner or later. Yes, Ancestral Master. Yuan Hao, what do you think? I think the Supreme Elder has a point. Ancestral Master, please reconsider. At this moment, the group of disciples also hurriedly echoed. It's fine. You don't have to worry about that. In fact, tearing down a mountain is quite simple. However, Ning Tian waved his hand, and then the spiritual energy in his hand vibrated. Boom! A terrifying wave of spiritual energy instantly enveloped a mountain near the herb field. Then, the entire mountain shook. The earth shook, and the mountain shook as if the gravel was about to collapse. At this moment, another wave of energy appeared in Ning Tian's hand. That was the power of the path of the void. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the mountain collapsed, but all the gravel was sucked into the void the moment it fell. Soon, the mountain that was standing in front of them just a moment ago was empty. If Yugong was here, he would probably call him an expert. F***CK. What did the Ancestral Master do? Where is the mountain? I just blinked, and the mountain is gone? The group of disciples was dumbfounded, and they were shocked. All right, let's go and explore. Ning Tian did not care about them. He waved his hand and asked them to explore the herb field. Chapter 258. Yes, Ancestral Master. The group of disciples obeyed Ning Tian's words and walked towards the herb field that the Ancestral Master had forcibly opened up with their hose. At this moment, the system's voice sounded in Ning Tian's mind. You've shocked a group of disciples by opening up a mountain. Rewarded talent skill, 10,000 acres of fertile farmland. 10,000 acres of fertile farmland. After use, the spiritual herbs planted can grow faster and obtain some incredible growth. Another talent skill? Hearing the system's words, Ning Tian could not help but be stunned. However, the talent skill, 10,000 acres of fertile farmland this time seemed to be pretty good. Most importantly, there were no restrictions on the use of the talent skill. Not bad. Ning Tian's lips curled into a satisfied smile. Next, he just had to wait for the herb field to be opened up and plant the spiritual herbs. 10 minutes later, the group of disciples put down their hose and the spiritual energy on the hose quietly dissipated. Looking at the herb field, they heaved a sigh of relief. It was finally over. Ancestral Master, All the herb fields have been opened up. Su Song ran over and said to Ning Tian excitedly, "Okay." Ning Tian nodded and then slowly took out a storage ring. This was the 100,000 acres of spiritual herbs that Ancestral Master Tian Bei had prepared for him. "Ancestral Master, do you need us to plant these for you?" the Grand Elder asked. Hearing this, the group of disciples twitched their mouths and sweated in their hearts. How long would it take to plant these 100,000 acres of spiritual herbs? "No need." Ning Tian shook his head. His words were like amnesty, and the group of disciples heaved a sigh of relief. Then, a cold light flickered on the storage ring. Countless balls of light appeared. They were densely packed and spread all over the sky, making one's scalp tingle. These were the seedlings of the spiritual herbs. "Ancestral Master, what are you trying to do?" Seeing this scene, the group of disciples could not help but have a flash of doubt in their eyes. Everyone's eyes fell on Ning Tian. Ning Tian muttered in his heart, "System, use the talent skill, 10,000 acres of fertile farmland." Using the talent skill, 10,000 acres of fertile farmland. Use successful. As soon as the system finished speaking, Ning Tian used 10,000 acres of fertile farmland. Spiritual energy appeared in his hand, and he raised his hand slightly. Countless spirit herb sprouts that were floating in the air and wrapped in light followed his movements and headed towards the herb field below. In the sky, stalks of spirit medicine rushed into the medicine field under the cover of the light. When they saw that the spirit herb sprouts were digging out of the soil by themselves, the group of disciples was dumbfounded. "What a guy. This is, I plant myself?" A few minutes later, 100,000 mu of spirit herbs had been planted into the medicinal field. A group of disciples witnessed the entire process of "I plant myself" with their own eyes. At this moment, a disciple suddenly asked in confusion. He rubbed his eyes and looked at the spirit herbs planted in the medicinal field. He could not help but be a little surprised. "Strange. Why do I feel that those spirit herbs have grown a little?" As soon as he said that, the surrounding disciples all looked over. "It does seem to have grown a little bigger. It's getting bigger again. What's the situation?" Sure enough, after they took a closer look, they discovered that these spirit herb saplings were actually growing rapidly. Amazing! I've been guarding the medicinal field for almost 100 years, but I've never heard of any spirit herb that could grow so quickly. Su Song was also a little stunned. The Supreme Elder immediately looked at Ning Tian and asked, "Ancestral Master, did you do this?" In short, in the Tian occult, anything that could not be explained with common sense could be explained by the Ancestral Master. This was because the Ancestral Master was basically the one who did it. Hearing this, Ning Tian smiled. She didn't admit it, nor did she deny it. Now, all we have to do is wait for the spirit herbs to mature. Hearing this, the Supreme Elder was basically certain that all of this had happened because of the Ancestral Master. However, the Ancestral Master had said something else. Could it be that these spirit herbs would have some miraculous effect after they mature? While Ning Tian was waiting for the spirit herbs to mature, Tianling Region, Central Plains, Righteous Alliance. Void God Emperor, your sect Shun Su is almost done recuperating. Can we make a move now? In a secret room, the Righteous Emperor looked at a blue figure and frowned. "Oh? How do you know that his body is almost done recuperating?" The blue figure was the Void God Emperor. He raised his eyebrows slightly and asked curiously. "Nonsense," the Righteous Emperor said angrily. "Your sect's Shun Su ate half of the Righteous Alliance's spirit herbs in 7 days. *CK. The Righteous Alliance has tens of thousands of mouths, but we can't eat as much as him. Tell me, how is this fake?" The Righteous Emperor was speechless. How could a 9-tribulation emperor eat so much? The Void God Emperor was stunned and said awkwardly, "Cough. He's always been a good eater." Righteous Sky Emperor clenched his teeth. If he didn't know that Righteous Sky Emperor was in an alliance with the Void God Heavenly Palace, he would have suspected that the Void God Heavenly Palace had sent a good-for-nothing to eat up the Righteous Tao Alliance. "Find him. I'll tell him to go." The Righteous Emperor's expression turned for the better when he heard the Void God Emperor's words. If they let Shinsu continue eating, their righteous Tao alliance would really go bankrupt. After a while, the righteous emperor brought Shinsu over.
Palace Master.
Shinsu bowed slightly to the Void God Emperor's figure. The Void God Emperor nodded slightly. He looked at Shinsu and asked, "How's your recuperation?" "I'm almost done. The Righteous Alliance's food is really good. I don't want to leave anymore," Shinsu said with a smile.
The corner of the righteous emperor's mouth twitched.
Cough. The empty God Emperor coughed dryly and said, "Okay, now that you're almost done, it's time to carry out the plan?" "Yes." Shinsu nodded. When he thought of how Ning Tian injured him, there was a trace of fear and deep hatred in his eyes. He had to take revenge in the future. "Go. You should know where Yaoqi is, right?" "I know." Shinsu nodded as his figure slowly disappeared into the void. "Righteous Emperor, can you relax now?" The moment Shinsu left, the Void God Emperor narrowed his eyes and looked at the Righteous Emperor. The Righteous Emperor nodded and asked in a deep voice, "How confident are you in using the demon summoning technique?" "I have a 90% chance of succeeding." The Void God Emperor smiled confidently. 90%? The Righteous Emperor's heart trembled, and he remained silent. With this, without the help of the Yaoqi sacred ground, the Tiamat cult's threat should be reduced by a lot. Tiamat cult, just wait for your destruction. Chapter 259. Jade Lake's Sacred Ground. Many disciples of the Jade Lake were cultivating using the methods taught by the legendary patriarch. All of a sudden, a beautiful figure appeared in the sky. It was the Queen Mother of the West. Many disciples looked over, but before they could even greet her, they saw the Queen Mother of the West rushing toward the mountain behind the Jade Lake in a hurry. Jade Lake Back Mountain. Although the true demon had been sealed by the wood coffin, there were still elders patrolling the place every day for safety reasons. At this moment, a beautiful figure landed. The Queen Mother of the West looked at the two elders guarding the celestial pool and asked, "Elder Nanqing, Elder Yao Qiao, is there any movement in the celestial pool?" "Greetings, Sacred Lord." The two elders bowed, and then Elder Nanqing said slowly, "Holy Lord, the celestial pool is extremely quiet. I presume that the soul-locking coffin has taken effect. The true demon must have tasted pain and doesn't dare to act rashly." Elder Yao Qiao said with a smile. "No movement?" The Queen Mother of the West murmured. Her beautiful eyes glinted. She nodded and said, "All right, I understand. You two stay here and watch. I'll go in."
"Yes."
The two elders nodded their heads. The Queen Mother of the West walked toward the celestial pool. With a wave of her hand, a hole appeared in the barrier around the celestial pool. After she entered, the barrier returned to normal. A beautiful figure stood in front of the celestial pool. The Queen Mother of the West looked at the calm surface of the water. Ever since the true demon was sealed in the wood coffin, the celestial pool had returned to normal. "I know you're not dead. The wood coffin can't kill you so quickly," she said slowly with a calm expression. The celestial pool was silent. The Queen Mother of the West wasn't surprised. She smiled and said, "It seems like you're not interested in the demon race's treasure." The words, demon race's treasure. The originally calm surface of the water started to ripple. "Have you heard of the Buddha Demon Pagoda?" Shi Wangmu said indifferently as a glint flashed in her eyes. It was as if she was talking to herself. However, when the words Pagoda Demon Pagoda were mentioned, the tranquility of the celestial pond was instantly shattered. Boom. Rumble. Water splashed all over the celestial pond. Seeing this scene, Shi Wangmu's face remained calm. She only used her spiritual energy to cover her entire body to prevent the water from splashing onto her. "Holy Master, what happened?" Elder Nanqing and Elder Yao Qiao rushed over anxiously when they heard the commotion in the pond. "I'm fine." The Queen Mother of the West shook her head. Her gaze was still fixed on the celestial pool. She said, "You may leave." "Yes." The two elders were stunned for a moment. After glancing at the celestial pool, they nodded and slowly withdrew. There seemed to be a huge commotion in the celestial pond, but it was only the ripples of the water. After all, the true demon had been completely sealed by the coffin, so he couldn't use his power. After a while, a voice came from the deep pool. Buddha Demon Pagoda. You. How did you know about the Buddha's Demon Pagoda? Although True Demon's tone sounded calm, one could still vaguely hear a trace of excitement between the lines. Shi Wangmu's beautiful eyes flashed when she heard this. Although she didn't know which clan the true demon was sealed under the celestial pond, the fact that he'd been given a name was enough to prove that he held an extraordinary position in the demon race. Even the true demon who'd been given a name couldn't help but feel excited when he heard the words Buddha's Demon Pagoda. It seemed that the Buddha's Demon Pagoda wasn't just something that belonged to the Drought Demon clan. You don't need to know how I know. I only want to know what the Buddha's Demon Pagoda is, Shi Wangmu said coolly, not answering the true demon's question. The true demon was silent for a long time. After a while, that arrogant voice sounded again. What makes you think I'll tell you? You will. Because you want to know more about the Buddha's Demon Pagoda from me. You haven't given up on the idea of escaping from here. The Queen Mother's lips curled into a beautiful smile as she spoke calmly. You. Inside the celestial pond, the true demon was stunned for a moment before he burst into laughter. Ha ha ha, what a smart woman. After laughing, the true demon's voice sounded again, and his tone was cold. However, I advise you that if this thing is really in your hands, it's best to throw it away. Why? Shi Wangmu frowned slightly as she asked. The Buddha's Demon Pagoda has a total of 12 levels. It's used to seal those bloodthirsty demons in the demon race, the true demon said with a cold smile. Bloodthirsty demons? They're demons that feed on demons. The true demon's tone was calm, but there was endless eeriness in his voice. What? Shi Wangmu's expression changed, and her eyes were filled with seriousness. Even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. There were thousands of races in the mysterious Sky Continent. Although there were killings among the same race, there had never been a case of the same race eating each other. Just how cruel were the demons in the Buddha's Demon Pagoda? Ha, the demons in the Buddha's Demon Pagoda have eaten at least hundreds of millions of demon seeds. They're extremely powerful. Once the seal is broken, no one in the entire heavenly spirit region can suppress them, let alone the Jade Pool. Moreover, the Buddha's Demon Pagoda is a demon pagoda. It can seal those demons. How simple can it be? Therefore, I advise you to throw away the Buddha's Demon Pagoda as soon as possible, lest you can't even protect yourself. Ha ha ha. The true demon's gloating laughter could be heard in the celestial pool. Shi Wangmu fell into a long silence after hearing this. However, she didn't completely trust the true demon's words. Who knew if this guy had any ulterior motives? After a long silence, Shi Wangmu looked indifferently at the celestial pool. She said coldly, "Don't even think about escaping. With the wooden soul-locking coffin suppressing you, you won't be able to escape. Just wait for it to refine you." Haha. A cold laugh came from the celestial pool. Shi Wangmu didn't waste any more words. She turned around and walked out of the celestial pool. The celestial pool became calm again, without any ripples. Vaguely, a demonic whisper could be heard. The Buddha's Demon Pagoda. Although it's as I said, but it's fatally attractive to us demons. If we can get it, the originally calm pool of water seemed to have another wave of ripples. After walking out of the celestial pool, the barrier was sealed again. Shi Wangmu looked at the two elders and ordered, "Elders, guard the celestial pool well. If anything happens, inform me immediately." Yes, Holy Lord. Elder Nanqing and Elder Yao Qiu nodded in agreement. Chapter 260. After giving her instructions, the Queen Mother of the West was not in a hurry to inform Ning Tian. She had her own plans. The two elders watched the Queen Mother leave and continued to guard the barrier. Dozens of minutes later, Jade Pool's back mountain, a void appeared. Nanqing and Elder Yao Qiu were stunned when they sensed the movement behind them. They slowly turned around. "Sacred Lord, why are you back?" Who are you?" They turned around and saw a middle-aged man that they had never seen before. Their expressions changed. They did not hesitate and prepared to use the warning method of an enemy attack. However, the moment they moved, the man appeared in front of them like a ghost. He grabbed their throats and his aura shook violently. In the blink of an eye, the spiritual energy of the two elders was firmly suppressed. The two elders desperately tried to make a sound or struggle, but it was to no avail. Both of them were two-star quasi-emperors. What kind of expert was this middle-aged man in front of them? The middle-aged man sneered. He exerted force in his hand, and spirit chi surged. Crack. The two elders' throats were instantly broken. Despair flashed in their eyes. The moment they lost their vitality, their divine souls broke out of their bodies. However, the middle-aged man seemed to be prepared. The moment their divine souls came out, they were instantly killed by the powerful void energy. In the blink of an eye, two boundary emperors were killed. This Jade Pool's elder doesn't seem to be very strong. The middle-aged man sneered. He was Shunsu. At this moment, an aura appeared on his body. It was because of this aura that he could hide in the void and not be discovered by the Queen Mother of the West, who was at the same level as him. Shunsu looked at the barrier in front of him and smiled. This barrier is strong, but it can't stop a nine-tribulation great emperor. As soon as he finished speaking, the aura of the void appeared on his body. Then, he calmly stepped into the barrier. The barrier did not react, but Shunsu had already stepped into it. Jade Pool Celestial Lake. Is this the place where the true demon is sealed that the palace lord mentioned? Shunsu narrowed his eyes. Then, he looked around. A wisp of black gas appeared in his hand. He began to mutter some ancient words. This was the Void God Celestial Palace's demon summoning technique. After a while, the tranquil water of the celestial pond began to ripple. A voice could be heard. Devil summoning technique? Who are you? There really are demons. Shunsu's eyes flashed when he heard the voice. He cleared his throat and said, I'm Emperor Shunsu. I'm here to save you. Great Emperor? The true demon's voice rang out. There was a deep meaning in his words. Save me? The thing that sealed me is the wood soul-locking coffin. Can you save me? The true demon laughed disdainfully. Wooden soul-locking coffin? Shunsu's eyebrows furrowed slightly. However, they quickly relaxed. What if I use the devil summoning technique to break the seal? He said calmly. What? Summoning demon seal breaking technique? How could a mere human like you know this? Hearing this, a shocked voice came from the depths of the celestial pool, as if it was in disbelief. Shunsu smiled smugly. This demon summoning seal breaking technique was something they had racked their brains to obtain from the ancient road to godhood. Although the guillotine soul locking coffin was powerful, it was still no match for the demon summoning seal breaking technique. In the celestial pool, the true demon fell into a long silence after recovering from his shock. After a while, he spoke again. What benefits do you want? The true demon knew that it would not be so simple for this human to awaken him and break the seal. However, who would have thought that Shunsu would shake his head and say, I don't want any benefits. You don't want any benefits? The true demon was stunned. In his eyes, humans were all extremely greedy. How could they not want any benefits? Shunsu's eyes flashed as he laughed coldly. I only need you to destroy the Jade Lake sacred ground and kill the Queen Mother of the West after you break the seal. Oh, that's exactly what I want. Even if Shunsu did not have such a request, the true demon would not let go of the Jade Lake sacred ground that had sealed him for so long. Since that's the case, let's begin. Shunsu did not waste any time. The spiritual energy in his hand turned black, and an ancient array was drawn in the celestial pool. Then, he started to mumble. #@ Anyway, you won't understand. Only the true demon could understand this language, because this was the demonic language. As Shunsu's voice fell, a terrifying demonic aura flowed out. Boom! In an instant, the water in the celestial pool surged. After a long time, a whirlpool appeared in the celestial pool. Splash! Splash! In the whirlpool, a black ancient coffin appeared. The pool water receded, and the ancient coffin emitted waves of yin qi. It's indeed the wood soul-locking coffin. Shen Su's eyes flashed coldly. Then, the spiritual energy in his hands surged, and all the seal-breaking energy in the array was gathered in his fist. Then, he threw out a punch. Boom! The spiritual energy surged, and the fist aura broke through the air. Bang! The coffin shattered, and wood shavings flew in all directions. Boom! Then, a ball of dense black fog with devil qi suddenly rushed out from the wood soul-locking coffin. Ha ha ha! After hundreds of thousands of years, I, the demonic fiend, have finally broken the seal. The true demon laughed maniacally. At this moment, he finally said his name in the demon race. Demonic fiend. Evil fiend. Why is this guy's aura so strong? Shen Su frowned slightly, and his heart trembled slightly when he felt the demonic aura. However, he did not say much. After all, it was just a true demon that had been sealed for hundreds of thousands of years. He was a Nine Tribulations great emperor, and there was no need for him to be afraid. When are you going to make your move? Shen Su looked at the cloud of black mist and asked. Naturally, I'll have to wait until I've recovered.
The demonic fiend laughed coldly.
Recover? How? Shen Su frowned. If the true demon recovered in a few years, then what was the point of doing this? I've been trapped for too long, but there's a way for me to recover quickly. The demonic fiend turned into a cloud of black mist and landed in front of Shen Su. Shen Su was stunned, and he frowned slightly. What way? Hee hee. The demonic fiend laughed eerily. Shen Su was stunned. Before he could react, a huge cloud of demonic aura enveloped him. Then, the demonic fiend turned into a cloud of black mist and rushed into his body. I'll use your body as the new body of the true demon that I've bestowed upon you. The demonic fiend laughed evilly. Bestowed upon the true demon? Damn! Shen Su's expression changed drastically. He did not expect the true demon in front of him to be a true demon that had been bestowed with a name. The difference between a true demon that had been bestowed with a name and an ordinary true demon was like heaven and earth. F*CK. I've been tricked by the palace master. At this moment, his soul had been devoured by the demonic fiend. Although his life was still there, his soul had changed into another person. Yaoqi, is it? Soon, I'll be able to take my revenge. At this moment, Shen Su's eyes were filled with red light, and the corners of his mouth were curled into a sinister smile. Chapter 261. Jade Lake's Sacred Ground. A beautiful figure flitted across the sacred ground. Sacred Lord. At this moment, a voice rang out. The Jade Lake's Grand Elder chased after her from the sky. Grand Elder, what's the matter? The Queen Mother of the West looked at the Jade Lake's Supreme Elder in confusion. The Jade Lake's Grand Elder smiled bitterly. Sacred Lord, you haven't been in the Jade Lake for a few days. There are still some things waiting for you to deal with. Now that they had the teleportation pillar, many of the Jade Lake's disciples were cultivating with their patriarch in the Tianma cult. Even their Sacred Lord and Saintess often went to the Tianma cult. Everything fell on this old woman's shoulders. In this way, the Tianma cult's Grand Elder and the Jade Lake's Sacred Ground's Grand Elder both had a tough life. They were both in the same boat and were the ultimate tools. Well, the Queen Mother raised her eyebrows and pursed her lips. It's just a small matter. Grand Elder, please help me deal with it. This? Yes, Sacred Lord. The Jade Lake's Grand Elder froze for a moment. Then, she could only smile bitterly and nod. Okay, that's all. As soon as the Queen Mother finished speaking, she directly flashed toward the Jade Lake without looking back. The Jade Lake's Grand Elder couldn't help but feel confused when she saw how anxious her Sacred Lord was. Her Sacred Lord wasn't like this in the past. Could it be that she's in love? Jade Lake's Sacred Ground, Ancient Book Pavilion. The Queen Mother came here to check the ancient books to see if the true demon was telling the truth. The Jade Lake's Sacred Ground was much older than the Tianma cult. This could be seen from the strength of the Grand Elder. What the Tianma cult couldn't find didn't mean that the Jade Lake couldn't. Patriarch, I've been so good to you. You should at least let me check my body after this, the Queen Mother muttered and walked into the pavilion. A few hours later, the Queen Mother's pretty face was full of seriousness. She frowned. Feeding the demons with demon bodies and demon blood. It's true. She muttered softly, her tone grave. Although she didn't find any information about the Buddha Demon Tower, she did find out that the demons were feeding the demons with demon bodies and demon blood. This meant that there was a 90% chance that the true demon was telling the truth. No, I have to report this to the Patriarch first, the Queen Mother of the West murmured. If that was the case, this Buddha Demon Pagoda was also extremely dangerous. She had to go and warn Ning Tian. She pushed open the door and stepped out. Right at this moment, a rumble suddenly resounded. Boom. After that, a vast amount of demonic chi filled the entire Jade Lake sacred ground. Instantly, all the disciples of the Jade Lake panicked. Their hearts were filled with panic because of this sudden situation. Just what was going on? The true demon has escaped. At the entrance of the ancient book pavilion, the Queen Mother of the West looked at the place where the demonic chi was abundant. After that, she didn't hesitate at all, and the enormous aura of an emperor erupted from her body. In an instant, the entire Jade Lake sacred ground was sealed off by her. The most important thing now was to prevent the true demon from escaping. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Whoosh, swoosh. In the sky, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. It was the Jade Lake's elders. They were also alarmed by this commotion. Palace Master, what's going on? The Jade Lake's elders' faces were ghastly. Even they were terrified when they sensed the horrifying demonic chi. The fear in their hearts had unknowingly lit up. The true demon has escaped from the seal. The Queen Mother of the West's face was covered with frost as she looked in the direction of the back mountain. At this moment, at the place where the demonic chi was released from the back mountain, a figure filled with demonic chi soared into the sky, and a series of sinister laughter could be heard. Ha ha ha, Jade Lake, tremble under my feet. The demonic chi continued to resound, and many Jade Lake disciples vomited blood because of the demonic chi. The true demon, the Queen Mother of the West's eyes flashed with a hint of seriousness. The demonic chi of the true demon made even her fearful. Then, she stepped into the sky, and a cold glint flashed in her beautiful eyes. Elders, let's fight the true demon together. Yes. The group of Jade Lake's elders looked solemn as they shouted in unison. A great battle was about to break out. At this moment, Tianma cult. A few hours had passed. The spiritual herbs in the field had already grown a lot. Quite a number of disciples had gathered in front of a medicinal field. Their eyes were wide open and their mouths were letting out a series of noises. They've grown again. These spirit medicines are really growing so fast. They're indeed spiritual herbs that can grow on their own. They're growing so fast. Their eyes were shining as they discussed. Ancestral Master, how long will it take for these spiritual herbs to mature? Su Song looked at Ning Tian as if he was looking at a god. He had never seen a method that could make spiritual herbs grow so fast. Don't worry, they'll be ready soon. Ning Tian's lips curled up slightly as he smiled. Okay. Su Song nodded, his eyes full of anticipation. What kind of miraculous effects would these fast-growing spiritual herbs have? A few minutes later, boom. Waves of rich, spiritual chi burst out from the field. Accompanied by a dazzling light, the rich medicinal fragrance assailed the nostrils. Many disciples felt refreshed just by smelling it. These are all high-grade spiritual herbs? Su Song's eyes flashed with astonishment. Yes. Ning Tian nodded. At this moment, the system's voice rang in his mind. The spiritual herbs have matured. Using talent skill, 10,000 acres of fertile fields. All spiritual herbs have a random enhancement. Enhancement successful. The system's voice slowly fell. Huh, it ended just like that? Hearing the voice, Ning Tian was stunned for a moment and frowned slightly. System, You don't seem to have introduced what enhancement is. About this, of course, it has to wait for the host to discover it himself. Life should be full of little surprises. The system said with a straight face. Ning Tian was silent. He felt that the system wanted him to test the poison, and he had evidence. However, how could he test the poison himself? Ning Tian's gaze kept looking around, looking for a lab rat for the experiment. All the disciples and elders who were under his gaze couldn't help but tremble. Why did it feel like the ancestral master's gaze was malicious? Just as Ning Tian was looking for a lab rat, his gaze suddenly fell on a place. It was a flame-sealing lion king swaggering past from the side. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. The physique of a beast should be stronger than that of a human. It shouldn't die after eating an unknown spiritual herb, right? Ning Tian muttered. Beside him, the Supreme Elder and Su Song, who heard this, suddenly trembled. Damn! Just now, the ancestral master was indeed targeting them. But fortunately, the bitterness of life still fell on that little lion in the end. Chapter 262. Roar, roar, the flame-sealing Lion King was humming a tune as if it was in a good mood. It had just returned from the celestial spring waterfall, and its teeth were very clean. It finally understood why it would always be woken up by a stench when it was sleeping. So, it was because of its bad breath. Roar. It was quite embarrassing. Hey. At this time, a voice came from the side. Shabai Lion, come here. Roar? Shabai Lion, are you calling me? The flame-sealing Lion King was stunned for a moment. It stopped, turned its head, and looked in that direction. It saw its handsome master and a group of disciples and elders of the Tianma cult looking at it. It hurriedly ran over to her. Roar, roar, roar. The flame-sealing Lion King went over and roared at Ning Tian in confusion. Oh? Hearing the flame-sealing Lion King's words, Ning Tian raised his eyebrows and asked, You mean, why am I calling you Shabai Lion? Roar, roar. The flame-sealing Lion King nodded. Oh, it's like this. Shabai will be your name from now on. It has a meaning. You must have a murderous aura. This is enough to express your fierceness. Ning Tian looked at it with a serious expression and said, Roar? The flame-sealing Lion King was stunned. It was still confused. Really? Roar, roar, roar. It was really true. Roar. After getting Ning Tian's affirmation, the flame-sealing Lion King's eyes were filled with excitement. It kept roaring at Ning Tian with gratitude. It loved this master. He had put in so much effort to help it come up with such a domineering name. It was now a demonic beast with a name. It was certain that it would become a peerless beast king in the future. The flame-sealing Lion King was so excited that it did not notice the strange looks that the group of elders and disciples were giving it. The ancestral master's name was wonderful. Shabai Lion, come here. Ning Tian waved at the flame-sealing Lion King. Roar. The sealing flame Lion King ran over. Come. I'll reward you with a stalk of spirit medicine. Ning Tian waved his hand, and a stalk of spirit medicine broke out of the ground and landed on his hand. He smiled at the sealing flame Lion King and said, Roar. Hearing this, the Lion King was flattered. Spirit medicine? That was something that was hard to come by on normal days. Now, his master was actually willing to let him eat it? How could there be such a good master in this world? Here you go. Ning Tian tossed the stalk of spirit herb into the air. A wool. The sealing flame Lion King leaped up, opened its bloody mouth, and swallowed the elixir. After eating it, it licked its lips with a look of enjoyment. Seeing this scene, the group of disciples was filled with envy. His life was worse than a lion's. Only the Supreme Elder and Su Song knew what was going on. They silently took a few steps back to avoid being accidentally injured. After all, even the ancestral master didn't know what the medicinal properties of this spirit herb were. How is it? How do you feel? Ning Tian looked at the sealing flame Lion King and asked. Roar. Just as the sealing flame Lion King was about to answer truthfully, its big eyes suddenly turned and it let out a low roar. No effect? Ning Tian was stunned for a moment. Hearing the sealing flame Lion King's words, he frowned. Could it be that the demonic beast's resistance was higher? Since one stalk was useless, then a few more stalks. Ning Tian waved his hand again, and a few more stalks of spirit medicine broke out of the ground. Come, let me eat. Roar. The sealing flame Lion King's saliva was all over the ground. It couldn't wait to open its mouth and swallow it. After eating, he licked his lips as if he hadn't had enough. Roar, then. It let out a low roar. Still no effect? Ning Tian frowned. This sealing flame Lion King wouldn't be playing with him, right? You really don't feel the effect? Ning Tian's eyes turned cold as he narrowed his eyes at the sealing flame Lion King. His words were full of threat. Roar. The sealing flame Lion King's body trembled and let out a low roar. Suddenly, it felt a desolate land surging in its body. Roar, roar. You're feeling it? Hearing this, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a hint of anticipation. Everyone's eyes fell on the sealing flame Lion King's body. Their eyes were also shining with anticipation. What was the effect of this spirit medicine? They saw that the sealing flame Lion King's entire body was red, like a braised lion. Waves of steam were emitted from its body. The sealing flame Lion King's stomach suddenly swelled up like a big rubber ball, as if it would explode at any time. Meow, meow, meow. Feeling the abnormality in its body, the sealing flame Lion King wanted to cry. If it had known, it wouldn't have eaten so much. This was great. It was going to explode. Ancestral Master, the sealing flame Lion King is going to explode. The Supreme Elder frowned at the sealing flame Lion King and couldn't help but say. Ning Tian frowned and was about to save the sealing flame Lion King. Suddenly, the sealing flame Lion King's expression became comfortable. Its buttocks shook and a deafening sound was heard. Puff, puff. Then, the sealing flame Lion King let out a long roar. A strong stench spread in all directions. F***CK. Blurg. This is the first time I've smelled a lion's fart. Let me vomit. Blurg. The group of disciples complained. No one would have thought that the sealing flame Lion King would use poisonous gas to attack. This guy. Ning Tian frowned slightly. The sealing flame Lion King was farting. Moreover, the sound of his farts was like a machine gun, bursting out continuously. Don't mind it. Could it be that this spirit medicine has no effect at all? Looking at the sealing flame Lion King's appearance, Ning Tian couldn't help but frown. He was a little suspicious. At this moment, boom, on the sealing flame Lion King's body, a terrifying spiritual energy burst out. The red light on its body faded and turned into a steady stream of spiritual energy that rushed into its body. At this moment, the sealing flame Lion King actually showed signs of breaking through. Roar! It roared excitedly. A white light shrouded it. This was a breakthrough. The sealing flame Lion King also broke through from a rank 4 demonic beast to a rank 5 demonic beast. Roar! When the breakthrough was completed, the abnormality on its body slowly dissipated. Seeing this scene, the group of disciples' eyes flashed with a hint of astonishment. Their eyes widened. F***CK? The sealing flame Lion King ate a few stalks of spirit medicine, let out a few farts, and broke through? It's that simple. The spirit medicine planted by the ancestral master is actually so magical? The group of disciples all sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with deep shock. This wasn't right. How could a demonic beast's breakthrough become so simple? While the group of disciples were shocked, the system's voice rang in Ning Tian's mind. Chapter 263. Spiritual Medicine Amplification Effect. Strengthens spirit qi and increases the absorption speed of spirit qi. Increases the absorption speed of spirit qi? Ning Tian raised his eyebrows slightly. Seems like a good idea. Immediately after, he slowly explained the effects of the spiritual medicine to the group of disciples. Hearing that these spiritual medicine could actually increase the absorption speed of spirit qi, the group of disciples' eyes flashed with excitement. As expected of the ancestral master, Even the spiritual medicine he planted was fragrant. You shocked the Grand Supreme Elder. You shocked Su Song. You shocked a group of disciples. Reward skill card, Dance of the Universe. The system's voice sounded again at this moment. Skill card? Dance of the Universe? Ning Tian was stunned for a moment, and a deep sense of doubt flashed in his eyes. Why does this skill card sound so strange? Why is it dancing? Dance of the Universe skill card. Within a certain range, when using this card, the effect of dancing together with the amplification spiritual medicine will be doubled. Effective for 1 hour. Invalid. Within this hour, all disciples affected by the skill card will absorb a part of the spirit chi absorbed by them to the host. Hearing this, Ning Tian was stunned. There's such a thing? Dancing. Taking medicine to increase cultivation level? The system was proud. Host, I've already said that I have everything. There's nothing you can't think of that I can't do. Okay. Ning Tian nodded and silently put away the Dance of the Universe skill card. Immediately after, he looked at the Grand Supreme Elder. Grand Supreme Elder, collect a part of the spiritual medicine, then gather some disciples of the Tiamat cult and the Jade Lake disciples who are still in the cult at the Heavenly Demon Plaza. Yes, Ancestral Master. Although the Grand Supreme Elder didn't know what Ning Tian wanted to do, he still nodded. After saying that, he set off and began to collect the spiritual medicine and gather the disciples. Heavenly Demon Plaza. Ning Tian stood in the center, and in front of him were many disciples with spiritual medicine in their hands. They were all a little puzzled and looked at Ning Tian in confusion. What is the Ancestral Master doing? Everyone, I'm sure you all have your doubts, but don't be hasty. Let me explain slowly. When quite a number of disciples had arrived, Ning Tian looked at them with a smile and said slowly, Ancestor, what exactly do you want to say? Quickly say it. The disciples are dying of curiosity. The Supreme Elder bitterly smiled and said, Yes, Ancestral Master. Ancestral Master. Ancestral Master. Hurry up and say it. Patriarch, if you tell me now, I'll give you spirit tickets every day. When the group of disciples saw Ning Tian's mysterious appearance, they became even more curious. Ning Tian smiled and slowly explained the situation. After hearing this, the group of disciples were all stunned on the spot. F***CK? How could there be such a good thing? When he danced, it could even be combined with the addition of spiritual herbs. If you live long enough, you'll see. Ancestral Master, is this true? The Supreme Elder swallowed his saliva and asked with some difficulty. His heart was filled with excitement. If he could really cultivate like this, then even his old bones would have to show off his dancing skills. Of course. Ning Tian smiled and nodded affirmatively. Hiss! When the group of disciples heard this, they all widened their eyes and could not suppress the excitement in their hearts. That's the Ancestral Master for you. The Ancestral Master is awesome and will always be a god. Come on. Ning Tian smiled and said in his heart, System, use the Dance of the Universe skill card. Using the Dance of the Universe skill card. Use successful. Then, a golden array that only Ning Tian could see covered the entire demonic plaza. Come, continue the music, continue the dance. Ning Tian waved his hand and looked at the group of disciples. Hearing this, the group of disciples froze on the spot. Now that things had come to this, they were a little embarrassed. Let me do it. A shout was heard and Lin Hao squeezed out from the crowd. First, he swallowed the enhancement elixir, then hummed a little tune and began to twist his fat waist. Good heavens, this little fatty's dance came with its own background music. Seeing Lin Hao's dance, the group of disciples' mouths twitched. Was this even considered a dance? Was this really not a random shake? Ning Tian looked at him and was also a little doubtful. Would this not have any effect? However, his worries were unnecessary. Following Lin Hao's random swaying dance, the system notification sounded at this moment. Detected a disciple dancing in the Dance of the Universe range, replenishing spiritual energy by 1,000. Is it really useful? Ning Tian's eyes lit up. As for Lin Hao, he quickly felt the effects of the buff. The spiritual energy is absorbed so fast, So good. He laughed loudly, which instantly made the group of disciples' hearts itch. They simply gritted their teeth and danced along. What face did they want? What was face? Could it be eaten? As more and more disciples let themselves go, the system notification in Ning Tian's mind kept ringing. Detected a disciple dancing in the dance of the universe range, replenishing spiritual energy by 1,000. Detected a disciple dancing in the dance of the universe range, replenishing spiritual energy by 2,000. Ning Tian's body was replenishing more and more spiritual energy. He suddenly became a little excited. Unfortunately, this heaven-defying skill card only lasted for an hour. Otherwise, if he continued to dance like this, wouldn't his strength soar? At this moment, the entire Tianma cult square could be said to be a large-scale square dance scene. At this moment, a beautiful figure descended from the sky. It was Yaoqi Saintess, who was still in the Tianma cult. She looked at the dancing disciples in confusion and could not help but ask Ning Tian. Ancestral Master, they are? Yaoqi, you're here. Ning Tian smiled. After greeting Yaoqi Saintess, he slowly explained the situation to her. There's such a good thing? Yaoqi Saintess covered her red lips. Her beautiful eyes were full of splendor as she looked at Ning Tian. As expected of the ancestral master, he could even do this. Yaoqi, do you want to try? Ning Tian asked. Yes. Yaoqi Saintess naturally would not miss such a good thing. Her smooth, white, and tender chin lightly nodded. Just as she was about to walk over, suddenly, a voice sounded in her mind. She froze in place. What's wrong with you? Seeing this scene, Ning Tian frowned slightly and asked. Yaoqi Saintess froze in place for a long time. Her beautiful face was extremely ugly. She frowned, took a deep breath, and said in a grave tone, Ancestral Master, Yaoqi is in trouble. What? Yaoqi is in trouble? Hearing this, Ning Tian's heart trembled. His expression changed, and his brows instantly knitted together. At this moment, the system's voice sounded again. Host, your concubine is almost gone. Why are you still playing music and dancing here? Chapter 264. The system's voice rang in his ears. Ning Tian frowned, and his face was solemn. Yaoqi was in trouble? What kind of trouble was it that even the Queen Mother of the West could not solve? She had to ask for help from the Tianma cult through telepathy. Yaoqi, come with me. Ning Tian did not hesitate and grabbed Yaoqi Saintess's wrist. After she exclaimed, he stepped into the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. A group of disciples was left behind, and they stood there in confusion. What happened? What's going on? The Grand Supreme Elder scratched his head. Yaoqi Saintess's words were only directed at Ning Tian. They did not hear it, so they were still confused. Roar, next to them, the Lion King also scratched its head with its huge paw. At that instant, it suddenly felt a righteous aura bursting out from its stomach. Damn! The Lion King, what are you doing? You're talking nonsense. The group of disciples only felt a wave of weakness, complaining incessantly. In the study of the heavenly demon palace, Luo Wuqing's face was full of fatigue. She put all the documents aside, rubbed her temples, and heaved a sigh of relief. She had finally finished what she had been doing for the past few days. She slowly took out the teapot, brewed a cup of nourishing tea, and took a good rest. Suddenly, the door of the study was pushed open with a bang. A pot of tea spilled out, and her clothes were completely wet. Her clothes clung tightly to her body, showing off her curves. She froze on the spot. Ning Tian, who was at the door, scratched his head awkwardly. Why did he see such a wet and seductive woman as soon as he came in? Ahem. He coughed dryly. Now was not the time to take advantage of her. Luo Wuqing used her spiritual energy to evaporate the water on her body. Then, she looked up and looked at the door of the study. She saw Ning Tian and Yaoqi Saintess standing in front of the door. Their expressions were very solemn, and their faces were somewhat ugly. What happened? Her red lips parted slightly as she asked with a frown. Honey, Something happened to Yao Qi, Ning Tian said in a deep voice. Did something happen to the Jade Lake? Luo Wuqing furrowed her brows and couldn't help but feel a little surprised. She looked at Yao Qi Saintus and asked, Yao Qi, what's going on? Your Majesty, I'm not too sure either. Yao Qi Saintus smiled bitterly. In her mind, the emperor's will transmitted these words. Yao Qi Lake is in trouble. Shi Wangmu did not reveal much else. Someone who can make that woman ask for help must not be simple. Luo Wuqing slowly got up and looked at the two of them. Let's go. Gather the elders and head to the Jade Lake.
Yes.
Ning Tian and Yao Qi Saintus nodded. This matter was urgent and could not be delayed any longer. Immediately, Luo Wuqing led the two of them into the void and appeared in the great demon square in an instant. As soon as they appeared, a strange smell wafted over. Luo Wuqing and Yao Qi Saintus furrowed their brows and used their spiritual energy to resist the strange smell.
That fiend lion farted again.
As soon as he smelled the smell, Ning Tian frowned and immediately knew what was going on. The Lion King must have farted again after he left. On the ground, there were many disciples squatting on the ground with pale faces. What's going on? Seeing this scene, Ning Tian frowned and looked at the Supreme Elder. Ancestral Master, Empress, you're finally here. Seeing Ning Tian and the other two appear from the void, the Supreme Elder looked as if he saw his savior and said with tears in his eyes, Ancestral Master, please tell Fiend Lion to stop farting. This fart is too much for me to bear. The most important thing is that this guy's fart is poisonous. Even I am affected to a certain extent. I can sense that the flow of spiritual energy in my body has obviously slowed down. The Supreme Elder smiled bitterly. Hearing this, Ning Tian and the other two's expressions became strange. There's such a thing? Poisonous fart? Host, Fiend Lion may have learned a new skill after swallowing the enhancement spiritual medicine. At this time, the system's voice rang in Ning Tian's mind. What skill? Hearing this, Ning Tian asked subconsciously. Soon, the system explained. Righteous fart. Poisonous fart can slow down the spiritual energy in the opponent's body. The corner of Ning Tian's mouth twitched. There's such a thing? Isn't this too outrageous? But, although it was outrageous, he had to admit that this was an excellent skill for a sneak attack. It's easy to dodge an open spear, but it's also easy to defend against a hidden arrow. However, he didn't believe that someone would specifically defend against fart. Thinking of this, Ning Tian's eyes suddenly lit up. He waved at the flame-sealing Lion King in the distance. Fiend Lion, come here. Roar. The flame-sealing Lion King looked guilty and ran over with its head lowered. It thought that Ning Tian was going to punish it. After all, it poisoned the entire Tianma cult's disciples with its fart. However, Ning Tian didn't say anything. He just took out the Imperial Beast Gourd and stored it inside. Perhaps the flame-sealing Lion King would have some miraculous effect in the battle later. Wife, is it still necessary to bring the elders along now? After doing all this, Ning Tian looked at the group of pale Tianma cult elders sitting cross-legged on the ground and couldn't help but ask. Luo Wuqing was silent for a moment and shook his head. Who would have thought that some elders of the huge Tianma cult would be poisoned by a fiend lion's fart? The situation is urgent. Let's go over first. Luo Wuqing said indifferently. He smashed the void with his palm and rushed in with the two of them. If there were only 3 people, there would be no need to use the teleportation pillar. And their target was the Jade Lake Sacred Ground. Jade Lake Sacred Ground. The entire sacred ground was originally green with mountains and rivers, but now, the mountains had dried up and the lake was dark. The spiritual energy in the entire sacred ground was getting less and less. It had been eroded by the monstrous demonic aura step by step. Battle cries, accompanied by the intersection of spiritual energy and demonic aura, constantly sounded. The originally peaceful Jade Lake sacred ground was now covered in blood. Many corpses were lying on the ground. Looking from afar, many Jade Lake disciples could be seen fighting with some black energy. Somewhere in the Jade Lake sacred ground. Bang! A roar sounded. The Jade Lake Grand Elder's body was suddenly sent flying hundreds of meters away. After stabilizing her body, she looked at the dozens of demonic auras in front of her. Her expression was extremely ugly, and she couldn't help but curse inwardly. Damn it! Originally, everyone in the Jade Lake thought that the enemy was only a named true demon, but in the next moment, the true demon with the name of a demon god summoned tens of thousands of powerful demonic auras. Some of the demonic auras were even comparable to god thearchs. This kind of method was a little too heaven-defying. Chapter 265. I wonder how the battle between the Sacred Lord and the demonic fiend is going, the Grand Elder of the Jade Lake murmured. She looked at the sky solemnly. Above, two enormous auras were fighting back and forth. Every time they clashed, it was as if they could shatter the entire sky. That was a battle between a Nine Tribulations great emperor and a named true demon. Who would dare to interfere? Phew! She took a deep breath and shouted at the Jade Lake elders around her. Everyone, calm down. We'll hold off the demonic fiend. That's all we can do now. Yes. Kill. The group of Jade Lake elders nodded. The group of old women had fierce looks in their eyes, and their auras were awe-inspiring. Although the Jade Lake sacred ground was full of women, their murderous aura was not weaker than anyone else's. In the blink of an eye, the entire Jade Lake, regardless of whether it was the disciples or the elders, were fighting against the demonic fiend. In the sky, a burst of desolate, heavenly music sounded. The entertainment Tao attack, which had almost taken physical form, surged towards the black fog. Break. However, with a demonic howl, the entertainment Tao was shattered. Haha, you want to trap me with a mere entertainment Tao attack? The black fog turned into a figure. It was the demonic fiend. He smirked and shattered the Queen Mother of the West's entertainment Tao attack. Is that so? The Queen Mother of the West's delicate body was surrounded by dense spiritual energy, and she was holding a jade flute in her hand. The sound of the flute was shattered. When she heard the demonic fiend's words, she did not panic at all. Instead, she smiled meaningfully. Absolute sound kill. Then, a cold look flashed in her eyes, and she shouted. The great emperor's aura was activated in her hands. Boom! The immortal artifact jade flute in her hand shook violently, and the shattered sound of the flute was heard again. It turned into a powerful killing move and fell toward the demonic fiend. It's not to trap you, but to kill you. The Queen Mother of the West's beautiful eyes were full of murderous intent as she attacked the demonic fiend. Boom, boom. The flute's entertainment Tao seemed to have turned into music theory and swept toward the surroundings. In the blink of an eye, the demonic fiend was enveloped. Bang, bang. In the blink of an eye, the demonic aura in the sky was slightly restrained. After executing this move, Shi Wangmu, who had been fighting for a long time, paled. Although she was a Nine Tribulations great emperor, the devil fiend in front of her was a named true demon. A move fell. Shi Wangmu did not let down her guard. Her pretty eyes remained fixed on the black fog before her. Yes. Demon Fien's impatient voice sounded from within the black fog. As expected, the body of a human is still as trashy as before. His voice faded. The black fog dissipated, and the demonic fiend appeared before Shi Wangmu once again. There was a hideous hole in his body, and she could vaguely see a beating heart. Blood flowed non-stop, and it looked very bloody. From this, it could be seen how powerful Queen Mother of the West's move was. After all, the Demon Fiend's body was that of a Nine Tribulations great emperor. However, the devil fiend seemed to be unable to feel pain. He grunted coldly, and then strands of surging devil chi emerged from his body. In the blink of an eye, the hideous wounds on his body were covered with demonic chi. The demonic chi was actually healing his wounds. Seeing this, Shi Wangmu's pretty face was filled with solemnity. Oomph! The demon fiend grunted coldly and said indifferently, Woman, although you're powerful, don't forget that I'm a named true demon. I am the bestowed true devil. Although I am not truly immortal and indestructible, but you're not qualified to kill me. Is that so? Shi Wangmu snorted coldly. So what if she could not kill him? There was no way out behind her. Demonic slaughter reincarnation. At this moment, the demon fiend shook violently, and the demonic chi in the sky gathered toward him. Behind him, dense demonic chi spiraled, setting off a terrifying pressure. It turned into a reincarnation cycle and crushed toward Shi Wangmu. Whoosh! The demonic chi whizzed past. Seeing this, Shi Wangmu's eyes were filled with solemnity, and the great emperor's aura circulated around her body. She raised her jade-like hand and turned the clouds and rain. Boom! The emperor's aura and the demonic chi collided heavily. Bang! A dazzling light was set off in the sky, and the aura was overwhelming. Two figures were sent flying backward. Saint Lord! The commotion in the sky attracted the attention of many elders, and their faces were solemn. Blarg! Shi Wangmu spat out a mouthful of blood, making her red lips look even redder. Her face was pale, and it was obvious that she was severely injured by this move. However, the demon fiend was in an even worse state, and his entire body was shattered. Damn it! Why is this trashy body so weak? Is this guy really a Nine Tribulation Great Emperor? The demon fiend cursed. He felt that Shun Tzu was a Nine Tribulations Great Emperor. Otherwise, his body would be too weak. Then, he took a deep breath and circulated the demonic chi again to heal himself, injuring the enemy by 1,000, but sacrificing 800. Woman, you can't outlast me. The demon fiend looked coldly at Shi Wangmu and snorted. Heh, if I exhaust all the demonic chi in the Jade Lake sacred ground, I don't believe that I can't kill you. Shi Wangmu wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and sneered. The demon fiend was stunned, and he cursed. What a lunatic! If the demonic chi was exhausted, he would not be able to heal himself. However, before the demonic chi is exhausted, I'll kill you first. The demon fiend's eyes flashed with killing intent. He raised his hand, and the demonic chi turned into a trident. Then, his body moved, and he appeared in front of Shi Wangmu in a flash. He stabbed out with the trident. Shi Wangmu knew that she could not clash head-on with the baleful demonic chi charging at her. Just as she was about to dodge, the void in front of her suddenly fluctuated. Then, a voice sounded. Wife, this should be the Jade Lake sacred ground. We can go out now. As the voice sounded, a young man stepped out of the void. Ning Tian had just appeared in the void when he saw a ferocious-looking figure with a black aura around him. The figure was holding a trident and stabbing at him. Ning Tian's face changed. He had just come out, and he was already welcoming him in this way. Wasn't he too enthusiastic? At that moment, an emperor's aura suppressed him. Luo Wuqing merely pointed her finger, and the trident formed by the demonic chi dissipated. Who is it? The demon fiend's face changed. The person who destroyed the demonic chi trident with a single finger was obviously not to be underestimated. In the void, Luo Wuqing and Yaoqi Saintus appeared. Hearing the voice, Luo Wuqing looked at the demon fiend. She frowned and said indifferently, It's you? Chapter 266. Ning Tian frowned when he saw Mo Sha's appearance. Isn't this guy the Nine Tribulations Great Emperor from the other day? Why did he appear in the Jade Lake sacred ground? You know him? The Queen Mother of the West looked at the two of them with a puzzled expression. He's the Great Emperor from the other day. However, his aura has changed. Is this demonic aura? Ning Tian frowned and explained to the Queen Mother of the West. Strange. When Ning Tian sensed the monstrous demonic aura, she clearly sensed that the Buddha demon pagoda in her storage ring was trembling continuously. This was not a sign of fear. Instead, it seemed like excitement? That's right. It was excitement. However, why would there be such a change? He shouldn't be the great emperor from the other day. Hearing Ning Tian's words, the Queen Mother of the West frowned and shook her head. His body is now under the control of a named true demon. A named true demon? Ning Tian was stunned. Beside him, Luo Wuqing's expression changed when he heard these words. He then said indifferently, since he is a named true demon, all the more we cannot let him leave this place alive. As soon as she finished speaking, the aura of a great emperor erupted from her body. Under the aura of the Queen Mother of the West, it shrouded the entire Jade Lake sacred ground. In this way, Emo Sha had nowhere to run. Emo Sha's mouth twitched when he saw this. He cursed in his heart. Just how scared were these humans that he would run out and call for reinforcements? The entire Jade Lake sacred ground was shrouded in demonic aura. However, if he were to fight with 2 Tribulation's great emperors, the demonic aura would be consumed very quickly. In other words, he had to end the battle quickly. Emo Sha's eyes flashed coldly when he thought of this. Boom! A terrifying demonic aura shot up to the sky from his body. The surrounding demonic aura gathered toward him. Seeing this scene, a trace of seriousness flashed in the eyes of the 2 women. They knew what it meant to be a named true demon. Yaoqi Saintess, go down and lead the disciples to defeat the demonic resentment. The Queen Mother stabilized her breathing and said to Yaoqi Saintess, Yes, Holy Lord. Yaoqi Saintess glanced at the Queen Mother of the West worriedly. But on second thought, with the presence of the Patriarch, the Empress, and the 3 Tribulation's great emperors, this guy covered in black gas shouldn't be a match for them. Then, her delicate figure moved and charged towards the ground. The commotion in the sky attracted the attention of many elders and disciples of the Jade Lake. When they saw Ning Tian and Luo Wuqing, the group of elders suddenly burst into tears. They were very excited. It's Patriarch and the Empress. Now, the crisis of the Jade Lake is finally over. In the hearts of the Jade Lake's elders and disciples, the arrival of their Patriarch meant that they were safe and sound. Boom! At this moment, an explosion sounded in the sky. 2 beautiful figures, like ghosts, rushed towards the demon fiend together with a terrifying emperor's aura. Seeing this, the demon fiend's eyes were full of solemnity. The surrounding demonic chi gathered towards him and was absorbed into his body. Feeling the increasing demonic chi in his body, he was relieved. However, he was still afraid. That was Ning Tian, who had yet to make a move. This guy gave him a feeling that he couldn't see through him at all. This feeling made him, who was always vigilant, very uneasy. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will win every battle. Therefore, while dealing with the attacks of the 2 women, he still kept an eye on Ning Tian, who had yet to make a move. This guy is actually so vigilant. Seeing this, Ning Tian frowned slightly and looked at the demon fiend. Although the Patriarch was not powerful at the moment, he was cunning. No, he was smart enough to see through the demon fiend's weakness. Strange. Why isn't the Patriarch making a move? When the Jade Lake's elders and disciples saw that Ning Tian was hovering in the air and didn't seem to have any intention of attacking, a trace of doubt flashed across their eyes. Could it be the Patriarch wants to focus on one point and reach the peak? Kill the demon fiend in one move? The Supreme Elder of the Jade Lake murmured softly. The eyes of the elders and disciples lit up when they heard this. Kill the true demon in one move? That would be such a hot scene. They were all excited, and the swords that were slashing at the demon fiend suddenly became faster. In the sky, the aura kept exploding. Spiritual chi mixed with Emperor's aura kept flowing out and collided with the demonic chi. Boom, boom. The aura kept exploding. The fierce battle continued, but the more they fought, the uglier the demon fiend's face became. This was because no matter how he used his spiritual chi, he couldn't crush the 2 women. One was stronger than the other. One had reached the Saint Realm in the Tao of Entertainment, while the other had reached the Saint Realm in the Tao of Sword. Even if he was a named true demon, there was nothing he could do. Phew, this can't go on. The demon fiend's face was a little ugly, and he absorbed more demonic chi into his body. The entire space of the Jade Lake had been sealed by the 2 women, and there was no way to replenish the demonic chi. Every time he absorbed a little, the demonic chi that shrouded the Jade Lake would dissipate a little, and the demon fiend would disappear into the demonic chi. Seeing this, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a glint. While another battle broke out in the sky, he took out the Imperial Beast Gourd from his storage ring and summoned the flame-sealing Lion King. Roar. When the flame-sealing Lion King came out, it was confused. At this moment, waves of Emperor's aura spread out not far away, and it suddenly turned pale with fright. Roar. Roar, roar. What are you roaring for? You're not going to die. Seeing its timid look, Ning Tian rolled his eyes at it in annoyance. Then, he took out the spiritual medicine that he had prepared in advance. Hurry up and eat these spiritual medicine. Roar. Hearing this, the flame-sealing Lion King's eyes lit up, and it began to wolf down the spiritual medicine. In front of food, the fear it had just now was thrown to the back of its mind. What is the ancestral master doing? Is this the ancestral master's demonic beast? This demonic beast looks so silly. With most of the demonic resentment gone, the elders and disciples of the Jade Lake heaved a sigh of relief. Then, they happened to see the scene in the sky. Boom. In the sky, the battle was still ongoing. The two emperors' auras worked together to disperse the demonic chi. Damn it! The demon fiend gritted his teeth, and a trace of humiliation flashed in his eyes. He was a true demon who had been given the name by the demon god, but he was being beaten by two women here. Moreover, his human body was very weak, and the demonic chi would dry up at any moment. Don't forget that his body was just a cloud of black mist. Damn it! Is this human's body fake or not? Why is the demonic chi disappearing so quickly? The demon fiend cursed. At this moment, he took a deep breath and began to absorb the demonic chi around him. Seeing this, Ning Tian's eyes flashed with a glint. Now is the time. The fire-sealing Lion King did not expect the desolation chi in its body to be used as a killing blow. It immediately let out an excited roar. Everyone knew that when one was excited, the gas in one's body could not be controlled. Hence, poo, puff, puff, poo, puff. One after another, sounds rang out like thunder in broad daylight, rumbling in waves. Oh no! Hearing the noises, Yao Qi Saintess's pretty face turned serious. She hurriedly said, "Elders and disciples, quickly cover your mouths and noses with your spiritual energy." Hearing this, the group of elders and disciples was stunned for a moment before they did as they were told. He, true demon, right? Go and eat my fart. Ning Tian's lips curled up slightly, and his eyes shone brightly. The colorless gas had already mixed into the monstrous demonic chi. Originally, with the true demon's strength, even the righteous fart would not affect him much. However, it was different when it mixed into the demonic chi. This fart was sublimated. If the demonic chi wanted to absorb the demonic chi, it would naturally absorb the righteous fart into its body. When it circulated the demonic chi, the fart would flow in its body and block its meridians. It was a perfect plan. Shabi, release a few more. If they perform well, I know a place with a lot of lionesses. Ning Tian gave the flame-sealing Lion King a look. Roar. Hearing the words lionesses, the flame-sealing Lion King's eyes widened, and its saliva kept flowing out. Then, its body swelled again, and the righteous chi in its body was released even more violently. Puff, puff, puff. It could be said that its fart could shake the heavens and earth. In the sky, the demonic chi's body was a little weak. He looked at the two girls with fear and shouted. Demonic chi returned to the body. After he shouted, the demonic chi in the entire fairy lake turned into a tornado and surged toward his body. This is going to be a good show. Seeing this, Ning Tian's eyes flashed, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Countless demonic chi condensed in front of the demonic chi. Damn it, this body is ridiculous. It's too weak. The demonic chi's face was a little pale. Because of this trash body, the demonic chi that he could use dozens of times was all compressed. I can't take it anymore. Absorb the demonic chi to replenish my body. A cold light flashed in the demonic Chi's eyes. He was ready to stake everything on this one throw. As long as he finished absorbing the demonic Chi, he would directly release his ultimate move. He did not believe that he could not kill the two girls. Phew! He took a deep breath. Suddenly, he frowned. Why do I feel that the demonic Chi smell has changed? The demonic Chi murmured. After a moment of doubt, he shook his head. Forget it. I can't care so much. After all, this was his own demonic Chi. Could it be that there was a problem with it? Then, the demonic Chi suddenly took a deep breath and circulated the demonic Chi. All the demonic Chi rushed into his body. Seeing this, Ning Tian's eyes widened. This was really eating H*T. Seeing this, the Queen Mother of the West wanted to rush over, but was stopped by Luo Wuqing. Don't worry, let's wait for the show. Luo Wuqing shook his head and said coldly. She had heard the sound of farts just now. Naturally, she knew that Ning Tian had interfered. Although the Queen Mother of the West was puzzled, she still nodded doubtfully. At this moment, everyone's eyes fell on the demonic Chi in the sky who was constantly absorbing the demonic Chi. After a while, the demonic Chi's aura had reached its peak. Ha ha ha. Foolish humans indeed. How dare you let me absorb the demonic Chi like this? You're courting death. The demonic Chi slowly opened his eyes. A glint of killing intent flashed in his eyes. Next, you will pay the price for your arrogance. The corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Then, he slowly raised his hand. Demonic reincarnation, transcendence of death. From the sound of it, one could tell that it was an awesome killing move. However, Suddenly, the demonic Chi's expression changed. What's in my body? Chapter 268. At that moment, Demonfian's expression changed drastically. He felt that the demonic aura in his body was blocked by a strange aura. Not only was the demonic aura circulating slowly, but it was also flowing away on its own. This made his already weak body even weaker. It was simply an illusion on top of an illusion. Damn it! What kind of aura is this? Demonfian's expression darkened. Could it be the purest spiritual energy in the world that could block the demonic aura? Or could it be the aura formed by the blood essence of a great emperor? Demonfian's actions attracted many people's attention. Seeing this, Queen Mother of the West could not help but be stunned. She frowned slightly. What's wrong with this guy? This is the show that I wanted you to watch. Luo Wuqing's lips curled up slightly, and a glimmer of light flashed in his beautiful eyes. This guy's strange trick actually worked. This, Queen Mother of the West was still in a daze. On the ground, all the demonic resentment had turned into demonic aura and entered Demonfian's body. The disciples and elders of Jade Lake could finally heave a sigh of relief. Looking at Demonfian's appearance, they could not help but widen their eyes. Their ancestral master's demonic beast was so powerful, just a fart could affect Demon Fiend. Ha ha ha, how does it feel to eat a fart? Just as Demon Fiend was trying to think of a way to get rid of the strange aura in his body, a hearty laugh came from the side. Demonfian's expression changed, and he frowned instantly. He looked at Ning Tian, who had yet to make a move, and a demonic beast appeared beside him. What do you mean? Demon Fiend looked at Ning Tian coldly and asked indifferently, Is this your doing? Ning Tian spread his hands. Why are you still asking when you've already guessed it? Do you want me to praise you? You. Demon Fiend paused. Looking at the smile on Ning Tian's face, he did not know why, but the anger in his heart suddenly ignited. That smile was so F***king despicable. What did you mix into the demonic aura? Pure spiritual energy, or poison from the blood essence? Demonfian's eyes flashed coldly as he stared at Ning Tian. Haha, didn't I just say it? How does it feel to eat fart? Ning Tian said with a smile. Eat shit? Demon Fiend was taken aback as his eyes widened. No wonder he felt that there was a faint smell mixed in with the demonic chi. It was actually a foul smell? And it's its fart. At this moment, Ning Tian smacked the ceiling flame Lion King's buttocks again and added insult to injury with a smile. Emo Sha flew into a rage out of humiliation when he heard these words. He gritted his teeth so hard that creaking sounds could be heard. The flames of fury in his eyes had been completely ignited. Ha ha ha. You should be the first demon to eat a lion's fart, right? Look on the bright side, this is still a record. Ning Tian's despicable voice rang out at this moment. Hearing this, Demon Fiend was at a loss for words. Waves of disgust and humiliation overwhelmed him. Then, he spat out a mouthful of blood. F***CK. I've lived for hundreds of thousands of years, but I've never seen such a shameless person. Demon Fiend wiped the black blood from the corner of his mouth and cursed angrily. He was too despicable. He wanted to F***King beat him to death. Thank you for the compliment, but I think it's just SOSO, Ning Tian said modestly. I'm not F***King complimenting you. F***CK. F***CK. Demon Fiend felt his vision darken as he spat out another mouthful of black blood. Seeing this, the group of Jade Lake elders and disciples could not help but laugh. They had to admit that the ancestral master was not only powerful, but his ability to infuriate others was also super fierce. Kid, you and we can't live under the same sky. Demon Fiend looked up to the sky and roared. The remaining demonic chi in his body was released continuously. Now, he was extremely angry. Kid, do you dare to fight with me? A trident formed from demonic chi appeared in Demon Fiend's hand. He aimed it at Ning Tian with scarlet eyes as he asked coldly. Well, Ning Tian took out an apple from his storage ring and jumped onto the flame-sealing Lion King's body, lying on its furry back. He chuckled. You can't even beat my wife. What makes you think you can fight with me? Do you want to eat fart again? Demon Fiend's face darkened. His entire body trembled as anger burned in his heart. He even wanted to eat this human kid in front of him alive. He, Demon Fiend, had dominated the demon clan for so long and had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. However, he had never been so angry before. Kid, today, you must die. You must die. Demon Fiend roared furiously. The demonic chi trident in his hand flashed with a sharp cold light. His body moved and rushed toward Ning Tian. Demon Fiend, want you dead at midnight. Who dares to keep you alive until midnight? The terrifying demonic body surged forward. Ning Tian did not panic at all. The corner of his mouth curled into a smile. My wife. At this time, facing an enemy whose strength exceeded his, Ning Tian decided to make an exception and eat a bowl of soft rice today. Humph. Touch him? Do you have the qualifications? A cold snort sounded. Beautiful figures appeared before his eyes, one in front and one behind. This made Demon Fiend's expression turn ugly to the extreme. Kid, what kind of ability is hiding behind a woman? Come out if you have the ability. Let's have a real man's battle. Demon Fiend looked at Ning Tian coldly, wanting to goad him. Ning Tian was unmoved and even took a bite of the apple. What a joke. I have a wife and you don't. This is the reason why I can anger you to death. Damn it. Demon Fiend's expression changed. The current him was absolutely not the two girls' match. He wanted to slip away. However, would the two girls give him the chance? Sword Dao, sword shattering the firmament. Music Dao, ancient flute absolute sound formation. The two girls cried out and did not say the slightest nonsense, directly using their strongest moves. The spiritual energy that filled the sky turned into infinite golden light, accompanied by the might of a great emperor, and fell toward Demon Fiend. Very soon, his figure disappeared in the resplendent golden light. Boom, boom. At that moment, it was as though the firmament was being shattered as it trembled continuously. Boom. A tragic cry seemed to come from within the golden light. After the circulation of Fiend Chi was interrupted by the righteous fart, Demon Fiend was undoubtedly at his weakest right now. Against the two girls' strongest attacks, He could not fight at all. Bang! The golden light dissipated slowly. Damonfian's body was not intact from head to toe. His entire body was already shattered. A wisp of black mist emerged from the shattered remains of the body. That was Damonfian's original body. Demon egg slaying. Demon fiend, who had turned into a black mist, shouted hurriedly and channeled his secret skill again. The pure fiend chi in his body transformed. Vaguely, it turned into a fiend egg that enveloped him. When he saw that, Ning Tian's eyes flashed and he shouted hurriedly, "Honey, hit his balls. Hit his fiend egg." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.